Don't be creepy.
There's no point in you betraying your future self to gratify your present self. It's a stupid game.
It's science. It's science.
I did everything right and they indicted me. China. I have to have my China. It's a great day for being sad.
I see that you know your judo.
Oh, another occurred to me. Interesting. Just crazy enough to work. Yeah.
It's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off for him.
So hot right now. So hot right now.
Phrasing.
Follow the rich white man. Follow the rich white man.
Don't be creepy.
I don't want reality.
In the Ice Age, how much taxes did people pay?
So hot right now.
Mr. Morelli. Mr. Morelli.
Your name, please?
Mr. Morelli. Mr. Morelli.
Jesus in his head.
Well, it's good to see you folks once again. It's the weekend. So I guess that means there's no Doom, right? No, never mind. Hold on, I'm checking my list. Nope, there's still Doom. Unfortunately, we've got a lot to look at today. So, I guess I better get right to it. Buckle up those seatbelts, space fams. We got a little journey to take. Through the abyss. Emma Bigwood was on Bad Hasbro today, that's right. I tried to watch it, but I was too late. That's what you get for living your life. You miss things of importance. Well, where do we start today? Suppose we gotta start where we always do. In America. Oh, wait, hold on. Getting a call. Okay. let's start in Seattle, where one man was injured in drive-by shooting in Seattle's Chinatown International District.
Man is recovering into the hospital after a drive-by shooting in Seattle's Chinatown International District. Seattle police say the 47-year-old was shot near the intersection of 6th Avenue South and South Jackson Street just before 11:30 last night. That's not far from Hinhey Park. Police say he was shot in the leg and is expected to be okay. They're still looking for the suspect and the car that they were driving in. If you have any information, you're asked to call SPD's Violent Crimes Tip Line.
All right. Well, that's an unfortunate.
At 5,
Another unfortunate incident of gun violence in America. You were hoping it was the elephant calling. No, I have not been able to get a hold of Dr. Elefante. All right, now we're going to move away from gun violence and quickly look here at this situation that's been unfolding in Oregon relating to this. How do I even describe this one? It's very frustrating. And I don't even know how this is a legal argument that's being made. But let's look at this. This is involving a DEA agent who is seeking federal immunity after allegedly killing a Salem cyclist. This is wild.
At 5, a DEA agent accused of killing a cyclist in Salem while on duty had his case presented before a federal appeals court today in Seattle.
At the center of today's hearing was whether the agent can claim immunity from state prosecution because he was on duty, an on-duty federal agent. So it's state versus federal here. Fox 12 investigative reporter Ezra Kaplan has been following the case and brings us the story now. Ezra?
Yeah, that's absolutely right. You know, this morning, each side was allowed about 10 minutes to argue their case in front of the appellate judges. The debate centers around a complex legal theory anchored in the idea that federal law supersedes state law. But at the heart of this case is the tragic death of a mother, a wife, and a pillar of the Salem community. On March 28th, 2023, Margane Allen was riding her bike home from work in Southeast Salem. Video from that day shows a black pickup truck running a stop sign moments before striking and killing the cyclist. Behind the wheel was DEA Special Agent Samuel Landis, who, according to court documents, was conducting surveillance of a suspected fentanyl dealer. Landis had fallen behind the rest of the surveillance team and was trying to catch up when he allegedly struck Allen on her bicycle.
So, if you're not understanding what they're saying, this DEA agent was involved in a surveillance operation of somebody who was selling or manufacturing fentanyl to some degree. He got lost behind the pack, right? So he's not doing his job well to begin, right? He's completely lost everybody else. There is no suspect in front of him that he's surveilling. And so instead of just, getting a hold of people and, finding out where he's supposed to be, not panicking, instead he decides to speed through a residential neighborhood, going through stop signs, and kills a woman on her bike.
The testimony at the grand jury was that there was no urgency and that there was no hot pursuit.
After months of delay, Landis was charged with criminally negligent homicide on September 6th in Marion County Circuit Court. But Landis's lawyers asked to have the case moved to a federal court so that they could use a defense of federal immunity.
And so the immunity doctrine says if the person is acting as a federal agent, then they are immune from state prosecution.
U.S. District Judge Michael McShane granted that request in December of last year, moving the case to the district court in Eugene. The Oregon Attorney General's office appealed that decision and today argued in front of the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals that the case should stay in state court.
So normally you actually wouldn't be able to get an appeal heard before you've resolved the entire case. But this is a special circumstance because if the case should not be in federal court, then waiting until it's been heard is a colossal waste of resources and time and so forth.
An attorney for the state of Oregon argued to the appellate judges that running the stop sign wasn't necessary for Landis to do his job as a DEA agent.
You talk about and focus on urgency with legitimate justification, but are you almost suggesting that there needs to be a necessity for him to have run the stop sign?
Yes, definitely. When a federal officer violates state traffic law, their conduct will only be necessary in that circumstance when there is some urgency or emergency that requires them to do so.
Landis's lawyers countered that running the stop sign was perceived as necessary at the time, regardless of how it seems now.
How it seems is we saw the footage of. We go back here. Hold on, let's just go back here, just because. Because, like, what the fuck are these guys talking about?
On March 28th, 2023, Margane Allen was riding her bike home from work in Southeast Salem. Video from that day shows a black pickup truck running a stop sign moments before striking and killing the cyclist. Behind the wheel was DEA Special Agent Samuel Landis, who, according to court documents...
So for that whole moment right there, right? You can clearly see there's nobody that he's actually following, right?
Was DEA Special Agent...
Like right here, nobody has passed this camera, right? There's no visible line of sight to any sort of... you can't see anybody, like, trying to run away or that he could even see right now on this road that he turns onto, right?
Samuel Landis, who, according to court documents, was conducting surveillance of a suspected fentanyl dealer. Landis had fallen behind the rest of the surveillance team and was trying to catch up when he allegedly struck out.
This shit is just ridiculous. And so they're trying to argue that somehow being a federal agent exempts you from being charged for murder when you're being negligent on duty, which is an insane sort of suggestion. Think about the implications of that down the line. Essentially, any federal agent could claim, they could just start running people over. But like, oh, I'm a federal agent, so can't prosecute me under state law. I'm sorry, what? Surveillance is not an emergency. Exactly. And as you heard there, the prosecutor was arguing that there was no actual emergency, any apparent emergency at all. The emergency was that he felt like an idiot for having gotten lost. That was the emergency. Okay, let's quickly look at this little PBS NewsHour story that they put up from a day ago, where we can watch them in a day of covering the Trump hush money criminal trial.
It's about 6 o'clock in the morning. I just got off the subway, and I'm headed over to the courthouse for more testimony in The People of New York versus Donald Trump. But I wanted to give you a sense of what it's like trying to get into this courthouse every day. This is the courthouse itself. We all enter through that door right there. This is the whole phalanx of camera crews that sets up here during the day. And this is where we all line up to try to get in. Morning. So while everyone is waiting, people get to know each other. They read books. They eat. This guy with the clipboard is running for Senate. One woman made her own homemade Trump puppet.
Isn't that what Trump is arguing? I think it's like a microcosm of that, yeah, to some degree. At least if you're talking about the Supreme Court case.
Name again was?
Donald J.
Oh, shoot.
A man in the general public.
I'm so sorry. I forgot about your emotional support characters. Where's my dice? Well, I don't know where my dice is. And I don't feel like getting up from the cockpit here to go find another dice. So we're just going to give you the standard. I'm sorry if that is upsetting. But I don't have I mean, unless you really genuinely want me to get up and get a different dice. I think it fell off of my table earlier and now it's under something. I have no idea where it is. You blame Canada? Yeah, that's probably a reasonable assumption to make on whatever it is you're talking. I genuinely don't know what you're blaming on them, but there's a bacula for you. How's that?
Like at the very front of the line, had been here since 2:30 in the morning, and he was 10th in line. At about 8:15, the court officer starts handing out these yellow tickets. These yellow tickets determine who gets in and who doesn't.
Golden ticket? That's it.
Thankfully, I got mine. We're getting in. As soon as I enter this doorway, cameras have got to go off, and they stay off for the rest of the day. Okay, it's 1 o'clock in the afternoon now. We've just been released for lunch after Stormy Daniels finished her testimony today. And we have to be back in about an hour, so everybody races out to try to get a quick bite to eat. Some journalists will file their stories, and we have to be back in court at 2. Okay, it is about 5:15 and court is done for the day. There was a very, very testy few hours of testimony with Stormy Daniels retelling the story of the alleged one-time sexual encounter that she says she had with Donald Trump and the $130,000 payment that she was given to stay quiet about that story. Trump's defense team went at her quite aggressively, trying to portray her as someone who was out for money and looking to just get rich off a story that they continue to allege did not happen at all. We also heard later this afternoon from some witnesses who had more direct observation of the mechanics about how that hush money payment was repaid from President Trump's bank accounts to his lawyer, Michael Cohen.
Okay. Just figured we would keep up with what's happening in the Trump hush money trial. Stormy Daniels has been testifying, I think, for multiple days this week. Not telling us anything that is, like, really, truly revelatory. I think we all know what happened there. I just thought it was an interesting way to have done this. Having him do a, what do you call it? Like a shorts style video on PBS of how they're covering the trial. Do I not have Blackula? No, I do not. Alright, let's go to this next thing. Here's another thing that I'm pretty sure we can say with some amount of certainty. I could be wrong. But I'm pretty sure there's going to be a bunch of right-wing backlash to this. But this is from 15 hours ago, where Minnesota's new state flag is raised above its capital for the first time. Now, if you don't know, Minnesota's old state flag had a picture of a white settler and a Native American riding a horse on it. And it was, I think it's pretty easy to argue that it was at least a little bit racist. God damn it, why am I dropping things? And that's exactly what I can't remember what group of Native Americans in Minnesota argued, but they certainly did argue that and won it, essentially. And Minnesota decided to change their state flag. The Chippewa / Dakota. Okay. I'll take your word on that one. Anyway, it's a historical moment, technically, of progress. Oh God, watch out, not progress. Watch out for progress. taking over the goddamn world. Progress took my gerb. You're Anishinaabe. I can take your word on that one. Oh, interesting. I didn't realize that. Alright, let's look at this from 7 hours ago. If you're not aware, it is Asian American History Month, and this is a little story from PBS NewsHour discussing the history-making legacy of Asian American photographer Corky Lee.
May is Asian American, Native Hawaiian, and Pacific Islander Heritage Month. So tonight, for our series, Hidden Histories, we introduce you to Corky Lee, a photographer who chronicled the daily lives, struggles, and contributions of Asian Americans, a community that's often marginalized, unsung, and unseen. Corky Lee said his life's mission was the pursuit of what he called photographic justice, changing America one photograph at a time.
In all my photographs, I'm trying to include pages that should be in American history books but have been omitted.
His photos were used by the New York Times, Time Magazine, and the Associated Press, among others. Lee was there when Chinese Americans took to the streets of New York in 1975 to protest the police beating of a Chinese American man. He was in Detroit in 1983 when protests erupted over the lack of prison time for 2 white men who had pleaded guilty to killing Vincent Chin. Lee said one of his most defining images showed sick Americans in Central Park in the days after the 9/11 attacks, a time when Sikhs were targets of violence and discrimination.
We read in the history books that America is a nation of immigrants. I just want to say that Asians in this country are part and parcel of a much larger picture.
Telling the story of his career, Lee often said it began in junior high school when he saw this iconic photo of the completion of the Transcontinental Railroad in a textbook. It shows only white men. Where, he wondered, were the thousands of Chinese laborers who laid the tracks? On the 145th anniversary of the event in 2014, he did something about it, gathering descendants of those workers in Utah for a recreation. Lee considered it his greatest achievement.
That photograph will be hung next to the one that appears in every history textbook. So this is my small contribution or way to for Chinese Americans to reclaim part of their history.
Lee Young Kwok was born in Queens in 1947, the eldest son of a laundry owner and a seamstress. He attended New York City public schools where he acquired the nickname he carried for the rest of his life, Corky. He was the first member of his family to go to college, studying history at Queens College. It was while working as a community organizer on Manhattan's Lower East Side.
Nobody knows Minneapolis is infuriating? Mindianapolis? Well, I mean, let's be real. Let's be real. Come on. I mean... Both of you are kind of overshadowed by Chicago, right? Like, I've been to Indianapolis before. If you're driving to, or even, like, if you're driving to, like, Indianapolis, you get more signs for Chicago than you do Indianapolis.
1970s, that Lee began taking pictures, documenting poor housing conditions.
When people look at the photographs, they can sort of read into it. If they see deplorable conditions, they can say, this has to change. And maybe it'll motivate people to do something to enact those changes.
Lee, whatever it's called. What's the... never heard of it. Am I making it up right now? What's the name of the fucking Indiana town I'm thinking of? Am I breaking my... My brain is broken right now. Now I have to look up what the fuck I'm thinking. India... Why am I... Is that not a place? Am I imagining things? What is the city that I'm thinking of? Is it... No, Indianapolis is a city. Why are you fucking with me? It's absolutely a place. God damn it. Stop playing me.
pictures of other things too, and began selling them to newspapers and magazines.
It got to a point that I started to use the photographs for documentary purposes, and it became, I guess, a means of expression. Because I can't write, I can't sing, I can't dance.
In a 5-decade career as a freelance photographer, he captured the everyday, often unsung, accomplishments and struggles of Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders in politics and demonstrating for better housing, education, and voting rights. He was a great believer in paying it forward. Annual photo auctions raised more than $100,000 in scholarship funds for the Asian American Journalists Association. He never stopped working. While the world shut down for the pandemic, Lee documented the anti-Asian hate that spread from it. He died of complications from COVID-19 in January 2021 at age 73. He left behind what may be the largest collection of photos depicting the Asian American experience in the last half-century. More than 200 of Corky Lee's photos have been collected in a new book, Corky Lee's Asian America, and he's the subject of a documentary called Photographic Justice, the Corky Lee Story. It airs Monday on PBS stations.
Cool. I just thought that was a good and somewhat inspiring story there, looking at the contributions of not only this photographer, Corky Lee, but of Asian Americans in America. To some degree, and since it is May, I figured it'd be a good time for that. Let's see. And since he's got that movie coming out, you will at least know about that. I think did he say Monday? So, yeah. Potential things to watch as well. You gotta rebel. I understand that. You did get me. I'm going to give that one to you. 100%. All right, let's I'm going to do things a little bit differently today, just because it's like, just because of the way it felt. Because if I had just had some, I had some stuff going on with my scheduling today, so I just kind of threw things in here in a weird way, I think, or just kind of messed with my usual scheduling. So we're going to look at the Palestinian protests in America during our American coverage here today. Start with this from a day ago from the Islam channel, where U.S. rapper Macklemore performed Hind's Hall for the first time.
I stand here today and every day forward for the rest of my life in solidarity with the people of Palestine. With an open heart, in the belief that our collective liberation is at stake, that we all deserve freedom in this life of ours. And yesterday, I put out a song called Hind's Hall. Can I do it for you guys? I said, can I do it for you guys? Let's go. Put those hands up.
Okay. I'm not gonna actually watch the whole performance, but I figured I would just make you aware of that. We're gonna look at a little piece of this video from Hip Hop DX, where they discuss it in a little bit more detail. Hold on, I think I gotta line this up.
His stance on the bloodshed in Palestine.
When I say free Palestine, it's not against anyone. It actually means we should protect everyone. It means equality for all, respect, peace, and love. It means a right to exist regardless of what sector you're from. My intention is to never offend anyone. I want every soul in this arena to feel the reflection of love. But there's innocent humans out in Gaza getting murdered with our dollars, and those precious human lives are an extension of us. I can't get up here in a fur coat, jump around and pretend while in my gut's saying, you know better, Ben. The ancestors yelling, you better step up for us. I love my Jewish brothers and sisters so much, and my perspective is one that's saying free Palestine is also rooted in your protection, my loves. And there isn't a drop of anti-Semitic thought in my head or my blood. Never again means never again for all. Have we not learned the lessons, my love?
Prior to that, he made headlines when he took to the stage at a pro-Palestine rally in Washington, D.C.
Cool. Just figured I would kind of discuss that a little bit in more depth. And some people have been criticizing him for it, but I think it's really good to see somebody who's actually in the limelight taking it seriously and being an ally to the Palestinians. Okay, let's look at this. From Democracy Now! From a day ago, where they spoke with Senate candidate Larry Ham on 70s apartheid protests at Princeton.
This news is funded by viewers like you. Please support our work at democracynow.org/give. We're also joined in our New York studio by Larry Ham, chair of the People's Organization for Progress, who's running in the Democratic primary for the U.S. Senate from New Jersey in June. He's a Princeton University alum who took part in protests at Princeton in the 70s, calling for the university to divest from apartheid South Africa. Larry Ham visited the Princeton Gaza Solidarity encampment earlier this week. He has a new memoir out also. It's called Lawrence Ham, A Life in the Struggle. Welcome back to Democracy Now!, Larry. You are running for the U.S. Senate against the sitting Congress member Andy Kim and the labor activist Patricia Campos Medina. You and Campos Medina have called for a ceasefire, but you're the only one who is endorsing an uncommitted vote when it comes to the presidential line on the New Jersey Democratic primary ticket.
That is absolutely correct.
But before we go to that, I want to ask you about what happened at Princeton and go back in time.
Yes.
These students that are protesting and have set up the encampment are calling from Princeton to divest from Israel. Can you talk about the precedent in the 1970s? You graduated in '78. Talk about what you did then.
Well, we started a 4-year campaign in 1974 to get Princeton to divest from companies that were doing business with the racist apartheid regime. For the first 3 years, we protested, we did educational activities. Then in the fourth year, 1978, we intensified our activity, and we had 66 days of consecutive protests at Nassau Hall that culminated in a takeover of Nassau Hall on April 14th, 1978. 210 of us went into Nassau Hall. As a result of that sit-in, the university agreed to divest from, I believe, 3 companies that were doing business with South Africa. During that entire period, I'm talking about from 1974 through 78, outside police were never called in to the university. They weren't even called in when we had the sit-in. So I was appalled and outraged when I heard.
So during the during the anti-apartheid protests that he helped organize, they didn't even call the police on them then. So 50 years later, we're cracking down on students even more. Huh. Sounds like we're going backwards.
That police had been called onto campus to arrest graduate and undergraduate students for participating in this current movement for divestment from Israel.
And how did it work then? Were you negotiating with the administration in the 1970s? You were the leader of this movement.
Well, I have to say, in all truth, that there was a lot of recalcitrance for several years. The president of the university at that time, President Bowen, wouldn't meet with us. It wasn't until 1978 when they saw that the majority of the campus and the faculty were in support of divestment would they even listen to us. And it wasn't until we had the sit-in that they actually agreed to meet our key demand, which was for divestment. And then they only did so partially. And I have.
So yeah, I think that's an important sort of analysis of this, for us to remember that oftentimes, you know, even when we know that the majority believes in one thing, until leaders genuinely know that there is a majority of people angry at them, right, for not doing the right thing, right? Will they do anything? And they're still going to be reticent to do the right thing, right? They're still not even going to go as far as we want unless we, truly demand it.
To say that the movement continued after 1978 with new student leaders. In fact, the following year, there was a sit-in at Firestone University.
Where is Firestone?
Firestone University is the major library on Princeton's campus. So I'm trying to make the point that the struggle against apartheid continued for many years, even after 1978. But I have to say I'm really proud of the students that have been protesting and the students that are on hunger strike. I wrote a letter 2 days ago to President Eisgruber condemning bringing outside police onto the campus, condemning the arrests of the students, supporting their demands, and also calling for total amnesty for all the students and any faculty that might be involved.
And Eisgruber, did he respond?
He has not responded yet, no.
So talk about the position you're taking. This is pretty unusual for a Democratic Party senatorial candidate. Well, in your case, in June, in the primary, again, you're running against Andy Kim, the Congress member, and Patricia Campos Medina. You and Campos Medina have called for a ceasefire. But you're calling for an uncommitted vote when it comes to the president.
Absolutely. First of all, I'm totally opposed to the Biden administration's approach to this genocidal war in Gaza. There must be an immediate and permanent ceasefire, and the United States should cease any military aid to Israel. Why am I urging people to vote uncommitted for president? In the Democratic primary, people will be able to vote for president, U.S. Senate and other offices. For president, there are two candidates, of course, Joe Biden, someone else, but there's a third choice, and that choice is uncommitted. I'm going to vote uncommitted. I urge other people to vote uncommitted because I think that is a strong way to send a strong message to the Biden administration that we are totally dissatisfied with his approach, that we want the war to end, that we want a ceasefire, and we want an end to genocide in Gaza. So that's why I'm going to vote uncommitted, and I'm urging others to do the same.
And if you were...
I totally, it's totally good to hear somebody who's currently running for Senate to be talking like this. I don't know what his current polling looks like. I might actually look that up.
U.S. Senator today, what would you be doing?
Well, I'd be voting against any aid, any more aid, as Andy Kim did. Andy Kim voted for, he says he's for ceasefire, but then he voted for $26 billion more to go to this genocidal war in Gaza. So I would be voting against any further military aid to Israel until this war comes to an end and until the occupation comes to an end.
And your assessment of Bob Menendez, the U.S. Senator whose seat you are running for, Bob Menendez, who's been charged multiple corruption charges, though has not yet been tried, is about to be.
Right. Well, I think Menendez, he's indicted himself. His behavior has led to, this is the...
I did everything right and they indicted me.
Okay. Let's move along. We watched more of the interview than I was planning to, but it was worth it. It was worth it. It looks like he might be doing decently well in the polls here. I'm trying to... Oh, there's one. Oh, no, I take it back. At least, as of April of this year, let me see, who are they polling? This is an Emerson poll. He only has 5%. Unfortunately, it's not a lot. All right, let's look at this from a day ago, where pro-Palestinian protesters gathered at MIT's campus. Sorry about that. I totally forgot to switch the video there. Okay. Let's look at this. Where protesters marched in University City after police dismantled Penn's encampment. So, they took down the encampment, and so people left campus and just protested in the city. This is from, like, a day ago. Almost to else to the
Protesters on the move at the University of Pennsylvania. Tonight, a renewed effort by pro-Palestinian demonstrators as they rallied outside the president's house at Penn. With flags and flares in hand, several made it through the metal gate of the mansion before police quickly moved in and pushed them back. Friday night, Rick is off. I'm Shari Williams. The big story on Action News is breaking news. Protesters standing with Palestine have just dispersed, but not before taking their message to the streets, shutting down several busy roads. The action comes after a weeks-long encampment was torn down at Penn's campus earlier today. Action News reporter Leland Pender, he's been out with the crowd all evening. He's live now in University City with the breaking details. Leland.
Yeah, Shari, at this time, the crowd has completely dispersed. It happened just before 11 o'clock here. I'm only seeing one police vehicle still here on the scene with lights flashing, but this is where they gathered a short time ago. There were dozens of people out here, and they ended their demonstration and everyone left. I did briefly identify organizers out here once things kind of wrapped up, and they told me this was fairly easy to organize. It came together pretty quickly, and there was definitely a response tonight to what happened earlier this morning. Now, take a look at this chopper video here. It shows part of their march here, and on their way to Market and 33rd, they stopped at the interim president's residence on campus, and they were trying to, you see in this video, maybe walk up some steps there at the front, but police quickly moved in and redirected them, and that's when the march began. They marched all the way down Chestnut Street, through several other streets, and once again ended here at Market and 33rd. In that video, you see smoke at one point, a red...
Do you see that? They got like a full PA system on top of this truck. That is legit. That is amazing.
Flashing light or something possibly burning. We're unsure what that was or if anyone was affected adversely by that. There's still so much we're trying to learn.
Oh my God. These people can't even figure out what to clutch their pearls about, but they're trying. They're telling us about it.
About what happened here tonight. But again, the crowd, the demonstration, the protesters have dispersed, and it appears right now things are back to normal here on Penn's campus. But of course, if there is more to report and more develops out of this, we'll be sure to bring it to you here on air and on 6abc.com. But for now, live in University City, Leland Pender, Channel 6 Action News.
Thanks, pal. Is there anything else to look at? Yeah, let's look at this. They have not stopped calling police on Palestinian protesters. Let's look at this from a day ago. This is PBS NewsHour. Police clear pro-Palestinian encampments at 3 more universities.
In the day's other headlines, police moved in to clear out pro-Palestinian encampments at 3 universities across the country. Lisa Desjardins has the story.
Before sunrise, police arrived at the University of Pennsylvania to disband a 2-week pro-Palestinian encampment.
Arrest is closed.
Some demonstrators were hauled away and more than 30 people were arrested. Governor Josh Shapiro said they were warned.
By their own admission, the leaders at the University of Pennsylvania have made clear that those
Whatever, dude. Quit your complaining. This dude complains a bunch. He's like, they're breaking the law. Why are they breaking the rules on the campus? And maybe the city laws too. Why are you doing that? What an asshole.
MIT, police removed tents and barriers.
We'll be back!
10 protesters were arrested, but some remained defiant.
We'll be back!
It's actually quite embarrassing. They had hundreds of riot gear officers, state troopers, all to come down for a student encampment that was peaceful throughout its time here.
And in Tucson, riot police at the University of Arizona fired tear gas at protesters and broke down wood and plastic barriers. At least one commencement speaker has canceled. Author Colson Whitehead will no longer address the University of Massachusetts Amherst graduation ceremony, writing on social media that
deserves applause.
Calling the cops on peaceful protesters is a shameful act. Elsewhere, an act of mass applause.
Asna Tabassum.
At the University of Southern California, cheers for Asna Tabassum.
You may not know this, but Asna is USC's 2024 valedictorian.
A prominent student activist. The university canceled her speech, but students at an awards ceremony gave her a standing ovation. For the PBS NewsHour, I'm Lisa Desjardins.
There were also...
Okay. I'm pretty sure the rest of this just kind of goes off the rails, and they also start talking about other shit. Don't need to hear everything from them. That's a given. Just figured I'd keep us up to date with what's been happening regarding the protests in America on campuses all around the country. All right, now this next situation, when I heard about this, I was both bewildered, but also not shocked at all, right? It's one of those moments where it's like, yeah, this is where our society has gotten. This is where we're at now. Let's look at this. This is from one of my least favorite news networks. Not my least. If there was like a bottom tier list, they're not on the very bottom, but they're near it. You're what? The GNN, there's a what? Huh? There's a GNN building in Fallout 4. Is that a joke? Are you making jokes? Is that a thing? All right. Sorry. That distracted me. CNBC. How retailers like TJ Maxx and Home Depot are quietly targeting people returning products.
Retailers have a problem. And no, I'm not talking about inflation or shrinkage or self-checkout lines. Retailers have a return problem.
There was about $5 trillion worth of retail sales last year. 14.5% of those were returned. That is huge, $743 billion worth.
You might have heard some retailers are changing return policies, shrinking return windows, limiting the types of items that can be returned, even charging for returns in some cases. In fact, 81% of retailers implemented pay-to-return policies in some capacity in 2023.
Amazon, Macy's, and others have added fees, or they've shortened the window for returning items purchased online.
Return fraud has caused a number of retailers to tighten their return policies writ large.
Now,
that's real. That's real. GNN is an actual news network in apocalyptic game. A game about an apocalyptic hellscape in which people live in vaults. I'm sorry. What? How has this happened? I did that unintentionally. Completely unintentionally.
Most people assume these crackdowns have to do with fraudulent returns or return scams. And they do, to an extent.
Retailers expect 16.5% of holiday returns to be fraudulent.
Anyway, let's not listen to them complaining about, fraudulent returns, blah, blah, blah. Let's look at this. Yeah.
First, let's establish what fraudulent return behavior is.
You have a lot of customers who will send back a broken product or try and defraud the retailer by sending back something else in the box.
Now, those are pretty easy examples, and often those returners know they're engaging in fraudulent behavior, but there's also times when people take advantage of return policies. Things like wardrobing, where a shopper buys a clothing item for an event with the intent.
If that's the case, I might have to start playing Fallout on the stream too. just like no comment chick.
Of returning it after. While you may be following the basics of a return policy, retailers view this as problematic behavior.
But it's the people who are misinterpreting or not following the intent of policies that are really problematic for retailers.
Now, if you're still thinking, I'm not a fraudulent returner, I always follow the rules. This obviously doesn't apply to me. Sure, maybe not, but that doesn't mean you haven't been flagged in the past.
It isn't sort of a binary event. It isn't that either you're a good returner or a bad returner. Essentially, what retailers are trying to do is ensure that every customer is profitable on their own.
A 2018 report by the Wall Street Journal documented what was and still is a largely unspoken policy of big box retailers, tracking and profiling risky return behavior, even going as far as banning customers from returning at the store. Customers who seemingly have done nothing wrong because of their return score. But what's a return score? Who's keeping track and what do they know about me? Let's use an example. Say I went into my local big box tech store and bought a laptop last year. I take it home and decide, this isn't for me. I'm going to return it. So I go back to the store and return the item within the proper time period. I have my receipt, it's in the original packaging. But this is a pretty expensive item, so I'm asked to show an ID. Hey, no big deal. I give them my ID and the card I made the purchase with. All good. I get my money back and leave the store. Fast forward to today. I go to buy a flat screen TV at that same big box store, but I get it home and it isn't the right size. You know what? I'm just going to order it online. So I go back to that big box store and return the TV within the proper time frame. I have my receipt, it's in the packaging, and wait, what do you mean I can't return it? I'm following company return policy, aren't I? I'm then handed a sheet that tells me I need to reach out to a third-party company to find out why my return was refused. Turns out this store has been sending my data out to a third-party loss prevention service provider, and unbeknownst to me, this company has been building a profile on me for years. They have
Okay, do you hear that? Yeah, Del Sol Verde is that comment's very much on. Everyone's a suspect. Like, I don't know if you're understanding this, but like, even if you're not using their app, if you're just making in-store purchases that require you to say you're using even if you're not using a credit card, like if you have to present your ID, like she's saying, that gives them any information about you, right? If you're using credit cards, if you're using a store credit card, oh my god, like they have all this fucking information on you. They're building a profile on you, and they're determining what and then they've decided, we're gonna give that all the data that we have off to a third party, not tell you about it. Let them start making some conclusions about you, and then we're gonna run our business accordingly.
my name, address, phone number, ID number, even my...
Like, the fact that they're not making people aware of this, I feel like it feels like something that should be a crime, but is probably not a crime. It might be, but I'm not a lawyer. Unfortunately, a lot of this data-related stuff is just missing from our legislatures. Like, in terms of, like, actual laws that have been passed around it.
Loyalty account information. Basically, any personal data I've handed over to this retailer. Now, this is all hypothetical, but loss prevention companies and this exact practice is very real. The most prominent being a company called the Retail Equation. According to the Retail Equation's website, it works with individual retailers to outline what the retailer deems as potentially fraudulent behavior. From there, the Retail Equation software tracks customer return behavior and assigns a score to returners who may exhibit potentially fraudulent behavior. According to the Retail Equation, its software normally tracks factors such as frequency of the specific transaction types, transaction value, whether the customer has a receipt, and purchase history at that retailer. But what does that look like in practice? Well, according to the Wall Street Journal, it could be a lot of things. Bringing back several returns in a short amount of time, returning a large portion of your purchase, maybe you forgot a receipt, returning an expensive item, returning a frequently stolen item, even returning an item close to closing time. These are just a few.
That's an insane list of things. Think about that. Let's just go back real quick. Returning a lot of items, returning a large portion of items from a receipt, like a majority of the items on the receipt. So you bought 3 things, you returned 2. Not having a receipt, returning a large item, turning frequently stolen items, or showing up to return something near closing time. Just like you work a job, you have a life, you show up near closing time to return something on the way home. That's suspicious, according to this company. This is ridiculous. This is ridiculous. This shouldn't be happening. And the fact is, if they're not telling you like ahead of time, it feels like it should be a crime. And even if it's on a receipt, that shouldn't matter because you've already paid for the item, right? Like there's an implicit like whatever contract, I feel, when you buy something from a company. This should be illegal.
Illegal.
Okay, let's look at this as we kind of transition here to our ecological and environmental related news. This is from Reuters from 17 hours ago, where the shipping industry's net zero fuel dilemma is discussed.
It is an incredibly complex and challenging conundrum for ship owners.
The shipping industry is under increasing pressure to decarbonise, especially now that the International Maritime Organization, the IMO, is being pushed to implement a charge on the sector's greenhouse gas emissions, potentially as soon as September 2024, with the goal of reaching net zero by 2050. But getting there is complicated, say shipping executives. They cite unclear regulatory guidelines, particularly around which cleaner fuels to switch to. Kenny McLean is Chief Operating Officer.
By the way, I'm pretty sure that getting to net zero by 2050 is too long a timeline. Considering the things I've been hearing, seems like one of these goals, like if we do meet it, we're probably still fucked.
Of Peninsula, which supplies fuel to the shipping industry.
We obviously empathise with the complexity that the variety of regulatory regimes are placing upon what are essentially our customers and also us to an extent as well, because we operate ships. I think the big issue about the new fuels regulatory guidelines is that there's a lot of them and that they are to an extent overlapping, but most importantly I think is that
you don't return a lot of things. I mean, that's good. Right, then you're not dealing with this a lot. But there are some people, for their small businesses or whatever else, you know, they need to be able to return things, and they're being flagged. Like they went into, I didn't think we would go into that much depth with it, but yeah, like they, you know, where they've been flagged and essentially are being the data, like these third parties are working with multiple companies, so they're getting flagged across multiple companies by one very clandestine sort of company that is not front facing. It's not like you walk into a TJ Maxx or whatever else, or go on Amazon and, you know, do these sorts of things online, whatever it might be, and expect that there's another company that you don't even know the name of keeping track of what's happening and making determinations on whether or not you can make returns. And the fact that the people aren't being made aware of this ahead of time, in my opinion, like puts people in very bad spots, right? Because we all assume that the policies are the policies, right? You have 30 days, you have 90 days, right? Whatever it might be, like it is, I think it's a presumed contract type of deal. Somebody mentioned something about a class action. I think it's entirely possible it will happen if these sorts of things are implemented across the board.
come from different either national, regional or international bodies.
Shipping accounts for roughly 90% of world trade and is responsible for nearly 3% of the world's carbon dioxide emissions. Currently, most large ships run on very low sulfur fuel oil, a tar-like substance that is relatively inexpensive and energy-dense. So a fairly small amount is needed to propel a vessel for great distances. Other greener alternatives include ammonia, methanol, or biofuel. But industry research has shown that they each have their
Biofuel doesn't exist. I don't know why they're even quoting it in this study. This thing is garbage. We're moving on. Biofuel? Biofuel. That's the solution. Like they don't have emissions. Like biofuel doesn't have emissions. What are you talking about, dude? Oh my god, what just happened? Oh my god, my mouse just died. Hold on. Okay, now we're in business. Oh god. Wait, is there no music? Why don't I hear music? I thought I played music. Huh? I'm just changing batteries in my trackpad. I thought I played your music, and I'm sorry that if it didn't go off, that's my bad. Alright, baby. Come on. Yes, there we go. Whew, that was close. Alright, let's look at this. This is from 3 days ago. Why thousands of Americans are losing homeowners insurance. This is from CBS News. My microphone fell. That's good. That's what you want.
Well, hundreds of thousands of Americans are losing their homeowners insurance. In California, 4 major companies ended coverage amid a growing risk of wildfires, and many others have paused writing new policies elsewhere in the state. And in Florida, dozens of companies have started canceling policies due to increased hurricane risk and a reported rise in fraudulent property claims. So joining me now is Matthew Eby. He is the founder and CEO of First Street Foundation, a nonprofit that studies climate risk. You know, none of this is going to surprise you. Your company published a report, I think, just last year, and the conclusion was that 1 in 4 U.S. homes could be at risk of what you call a climate-induced insurance crisis, meaning because of all of these natural disasters, people may find themselves with coverage that doesn't actually cover much, or find themselves finding it's really hard to find homeowners coverage. What are your concerns as you look ahead to the next 8 months?
Yeah, that's right, exactly right. When we released our report, what we were looking at and seeing is that premiums have been suppressed for years. And so the way that you're actually allowed to charge a homeowner's policy, it has to go through a public process with the state to be approved to be charged to the homeowner. And to do that, you can't use things like climate adjusted rates.
So I don't know if you saw that. It said 39 million homes are vulnerable to climate risks.
To the homeowner. And to do that, you can't use things like climate adjusted rates to understand the actual risk to a property. So insurance companies have been backing out of places that they can't actually charge a premium that's commensurate with the risk. And so that leaves us in an unfortunate situation where the insurers that are left are generally the insurers of last resort, the ones that the state provides. And those do charge those increased premiums. And that's when you see this unfortunate situation when a homeowner gets a letter.
I love how they keep saying unfortunate, unfortunate, as if it's not like, like it's not as if it's not fixable, right? It's completely fucking fixable. We just force these companies to insure everyone who will pay for their insurance. Okay? That's what we need. Alright? People are in trouble. This will be really, really bad for a lot of people. And it's happening everywhere. And it's going to affect people that aren't even affected by climate directly, by way of higher premiums. And it's going to affect people. Fact is, it's the choice of companies, and companies can be regulated. And that's probably what needs to be done. Considering, you know, all they care about is making money and not actually making sure that people aren't left bankrupt. And that's one of the problems that we have here. You're worried that all the... Well, that's what I'm kind of getting at. Is that right? Like, as things continue to progress, they're going to keep pulling out of here and here and here and here. They, oh, no, this is a climate risk. You know, you're going to have to pay, whatever, $50,000 for insurance on your $100,000 house, like, per year, right? It's like, it's unacceptable, right? And it can't continue to get on like that, right? It's just... you know? It's one of these things like, where the market doesn't actually serve the people, right? Where capitalism is actually negative for society, once again, shockingly. Alright, let's look at this from 4 days ago, where a student recorded the moment that a tornado hit an Oklahoma Hampton Inn.
Meu Deus! Meu Deus!
Fica aqui! Fica aqui! Fica aqui! Fica aqui!
This is the hallway. Shit looks like... I'm trying to think if it's like it looks like Resident Evil in here right now.
Okay. Welcome to Oklahoma. Welcome to Oklahoma.
Yes, yes, sir. Thank you. Yeah, I got my
Damn. Imagine being on your little vacation here in America and then having that happen. Little surprising. Alright, now I missed this story, but this is something that started about a week ago. And it doesn't appear to be done yet. It's not 100%. I wasn't able to get any conclusive information on this. I could have worked a little harder at it, probably. But this is from 7 days ago, where a fire started burning in the Tonto National Forest of Arizona. It is about to be fire season.
Right now, fire crews working to contain a fire that's burning in the Tonto National Forest. These are pictures just into the 12 newsroom tonight of the scene unfolding from the U.S. Forest Service. You can see that ground is scorched, lots of smoke now in the sky. That fire first sparking around 11:30 this morning. So far, we've learned it has now burned some 240 acres and is now said to be 30% controlled. This all started on the south end of Forest Road 402, which leads into Sugarloaf. That fire then crossed over to the north side of the road. Right now, crews trying to control the blaze from the air and on the ground. The Forest Service now advising anyone camping near that area to make sure you stay away for their safety.
Woof. Well, and that was not the end of it. As they said just now, it was only 30% contained. Here is one from 5 days ago, where the quote-unquote horse fire, which apparently is what it was dubbed, still burning in Tonto National Forest, and has increased by some 4-fold, I think.
Our top story.
So yeah, apparently, what I understand is that it had increased to I think 1,000 acres from 250. Let's see. All right, now we're gonna look at BC in Canada, where thousands of people have been ordered to evacuate Fort Nelson, BC, as wildfire approaches.
Our residents in the community of Fort Nelson, British Columbia, are being forced to evacuate due to a fast-moving wildfire. People were told last night to leave immediately. They're being told to go to Fort St. John, which is 380 kilometers away. And a state of emergency has been issued in Grand Prairie County in Alberta due to wildfires. People there being told to evacuate the area. Firefighters and heavy equipment are on the scene in both of those provinces. For more now, we're joined by
I know we have some Canadian viewers here, at least a few. I don't know if they're in chat right now. At least I think one or two might be in chat. But yeah, really hope Canadians out there stay safe.
Fraser. He's the mayor of the Northern Rockies Regional Municipality, and he joins us this morning from Fort Nelson, BC. Thank you so much, Mayor, for taking the time to talk to us. I want to ask you, though, I can see that smoky scene behind you there. Give us a sense of the scene that's playing out there right now and the impact on the evacuation.
Well, the sun is just coming up right now. You see the smoke behind me. The wind has died down, so the smoke has sort of laid in the valley here and is really smoking up the town. The evacuation went fairly well. I haven't got a situational awareness report yet this morning from the RCMP, so I'm not.
Now, if you're unaware of where Fort Nelson is, it is in the northeastern quadrant, I guess you would call it, of British Columbia. So it's very far from Vancouver, which is on the border of America. It's nearly in the Northwestern Territories.
Exactly sure how many people are left in the community, but it looked like it was a pretty orderly evacuation, and I think most people are gone.
What's your advice for those who have had to leave their homes, and any indication of how long they could be out for?
Well, my advice is for them to...
how long could they be out for, huh?
You know, to stay calm.
I'm sorry to make fun of Canadian accents. I take it all back.
Know that we've got some really professional folks on the fire line working it over and in our emergency operations center. So you know, we've got the RCMP has secured the community, so they don't need to be worried about their belongings. With respect to time, you know, the wind is down. The crews that were out there cutting fire breaks last night let me know that they got a good fire break set up, and if the wind stays low like this and we're able to get the tankers and the helicopters to get some water onto that fire, we could be in pretty good shape.
Yes, this is just the start of fire season, and unfortunately, it has genuinely begun. There are multiple fires already happening in North America. Just figured I would let you know that by way of this, that fire season is in fact starting, even though it's still spring. Places are in fact drying out, even though we've been talking about floods seemingly every day. I wondered to myself, how is it possible fires could be getting started while the world's underwater? But no, there's still fires happening too, apparently. I'm sorry. No, it wasn't a good Canadian accent, and like I said, I take it all back. This is another video from CBC. This is a little bit after they did that interview discussing how these wildfires are causing widespread telecom outages in the Northwestern Territories.
Well, the wildfires have caused widespread telecommunications outages in Yukon and parts of the Northwest Territories, complicating rescue efforts. So for more on this, we are joined now with Mike Westwick. He is a fire information officer in the Northwest Territories. Mike, welcome back to the program.
Thanks for having me.
Here we go again. I know we spoke with you a lot last summer. Let's get up to date. What is the situation in the area right now?
Yeah, so certainly our biggest fire of note right now is FS002. That's about 19 kilometers southwest of Fort Liard, which is just north of Fort Nelson, which is impacted by evacuation orders right now. It's currently under evacuation notice after an active wildfire in the area grew significantly under heavy winds yesterday and crossed the Liard River. It didn't make it too far past the river yesterday, which is really good news. It's still a serious situation that needs to be managed. There hasn't been any upgrades made to that status. Evacuation notice means to have an elevated awareness of a potential risk in your area and to consider getting your things ready. So there's no immediate threat to the community, but our team's working hard every single moment to prepare the community and to battle that wildfire. We're looking at some different strategies and tactics moving forward now that that wind event has passed, and we're assessing that right now.
Okay. So yeah, teams in Northwestern Territories are working hard to prepare themselves in case the fire spreads from BC to them. And even though it hasn't yet, it's already causing some telecommunications problems on the ground. I do hope they manage to put that thing out. Maybe they could use some of this water. Because this piece from a day ago says that new storms have battered Brazil, which is already flooded and reeling from deadly floods. So let's look at that.
A previsão é tentar, se continuar assim no ritmo que tá, daqui uns 10 dias mais ainda para poder chegar.
Oopsies. We expect if it remains in around 10 days to try to reach our homes, seeing how the water is moving. It still needs to lower almost 2 meters so we can get there. Damn. The water needs to get 6 feet lower for them to even get to their homes right now. That sucks. Is this a U-Haul? What the fuck is this that we're in? I think this is a U-Haul. We're just living in a U-Haul, I guess.
Poder acessar as casas ainda.
Populares, né? Doação de algum órgão público, a gente não recebeu nada.
Tem tio meu que é
An uncle of mine was homeless and I think he did not
eu
escape.
creio que ele não escapou, porque como tá
Because
desaparecido.
he's still missing.
Graças a Deus.
Damn, dude.
Então eu não posso me queixar, graças a Deus. Ainda imagino muito.
Are those propane tanks? I think those are. Jesus. Just 1,000 propane tanks floating around this. That is frightening. And the fact is, if they're floating, they're probably full of gas. That's what's frightening about it to me. Because I'm pretty sure an empty propane tank won't float. I could be wrong about that. Could be wrong about that. Alright, let's look at this. Athletes have dropped out of the Olympics to help Brazilian flood victims at home. Hold on, I need to turn this down. This shit is super loud in my ears. And I need to be able to read. Alright. Some Brazilian athletes are giving up their Olympic dreams to help those affected by the deadly flooding. Rowers Evaldo Becker and Pietro Tuchtenhagen were due to compete in the qualifying phase for the Games. This whole catastrophe that we are experiencing here took us a little by surprise. We have been training and had the idea of an Olympic dream with qualification, but after seeing over the days the situations we were facing, that all the people of Rio Grande do Sul are facing, seeing our family, friends, colleagues, seeing the population in need, Evaldo and I talked a lot and decided to give up the pre-Olympics and focus our energies here in Rio Grande do Sul, our state. It's quite a sacrifice, especially if you've been training your entire life for something like that. But makes sense. Hold on, let me look something up. Oh my god. It has a population of over 10 million people. Remember that. There's 10 million people that live in Rio Grande do Sul in Brazil. And that is in just, oh my god. Oh my god. We having Canadian citizenship talks in here? Is that what's happening? Alright, let's just look at a little bit more of the most recent footage. This is from 6 hours ago.
Muito triste, né? Porque a gente tem tantos anos de trabalho, né? E de repente, do nada, a gente acaba.
It's very sad to go through a situation like this after so many years of work, but others have had it much worse. It's the material loss of goods. Some people paid with their lives. We're going to rebuild.
E a gente vai lutar para isso.
This is from 3 hours ago from the AP. More footage incoming. This is insane,
the scale is hard to believe. Close to 2 million people have been affected by Brazil's historic flooding. Hundreds of thousands are in shelters, with some cities completely underwater, and even in cities where levels didn't go as high, important services like water, sewage, electricity, or communications have been knocked out. About 6,000.
For fuck's sake, dude.
Are sheltered in this university, struggling to sleep with the noise and heat and the memories. This woman is in the shelter with her grandchildren. She was rescued by helicopter. It was the most difficult day of our lives, she says. It was horrible. The government has said the amount of destruction will only be known when the water recedes. The country's southernmost state expects to need $5 billion for rebuilding. But for now, the focus has been on getting aid to people who need it and rescuing people who need to get to safety. It's very sad. I've never seen anything like it, this man says. I don't know what's going on.
Poor guy.
Now, southern Brazil wasn't used to
Oh my
extreme
God.
flooding, but that is changing. The storm that caused this disaster dropped in 10 days what would normally be 6 months worth of rain. Well, it's the third time that
180 days worth of rain in 10.
happened in a year. The driver of this tractor spent days moving people in his bucket. He says he's been living in the machine. It's become his home. He has nowhere to go anyway because his actual house is underwater. It has also been a difficult time for animals. When a team went out to rescue dogs, they brought back 60. When word of what they were doing got out, it spread. Within a few days, they had 2,500 dogs.
Oh my God, they have 20. I missed this in my when I was watching this earlier. Probably because I was also watching the NBA today with my best friend. Came down to earth. Had some, had a little fun. Felt I deserved it. Holy fuck, we were just talking about this goddamn dog shelter. What was it, 2 days ago? I think they said they had like a couple dozen. Now they have 2,500. They've 100x'd the number of dogs they have that they're watching in 2 days?
Woman scoured shelters and found 2 of hers that had been missing. It's a joy, she says. Pets are all we have. I thought they had drowned. For the crews out searching, it has been...
Oh, God. The puppies are making me not as sad right now. They're so cute. But, god damn, look at them. They're all just stuck on this balcony.
grueling work and emotional. I want to help as much as possible, this rescuer says. It's a terrible feeling. Families have lost absolutely everything. One story that captivated many this week was a horse stranded on a tin roof. It was eventually rescued by firefighters and veterinarians. It was sedated and taken away by boat. The Brazilian First Lady shared a video of herself watching the rescue and then going to tell the president. It has been a week where Brazilians will take good news wherever they can find it. Mike Armstrong, Global.
Seriously. I'm pretty sure graças a Deus is thank God in Portuguese. Yeah. And we looked at that horse rescue already. We've been following that horse. And all they had to do was just, because the water level was so goddamn high, they just drove a boat up to the roof and, you know, sedated the horse and put it in the boat. It was pretty, pretty straightforward. All right, now let's move on to this. We looked at this a little bit yesterday, but not a lot of footage had come out yet. This is from 14 hours ago, where huge torrents of muddy water swamp northern Afghanistan. Water crashed through the Wobegon province. These guys are gonna get swept away. Flood swept through villages in Gore province. Holy shit. That just looks like concrete. It's just like mud and stone mixed with water just going through the streets. This is fucking crazy. The flood caused injuries. No kidding. And hundreds of people lost their homes and property. Oh my God. Okay, we're just gonna go straight to this next one from Global News about the floods here in Afghanistan.
Devastating flash floods triggered by torrential rains have killed hundreds of people in Afghanistan. Officials say the northern region of the country is worst hit, with dozens of deaths in the Baglan and Takar provinces. A rescue operation is underway, evacuating residents stuck in flood-affected areas, according to a government spokesperson. In April, at least 70 people were killed from heavy rains and flash flooding in the country.
It was 1:30 p.m. local time. We had finished Friday prayers and were walking toward our homes when suddenly the flood started. We didn't have enough time to reach our homes. The flood took us by surprise. People faced many financial and human losses. The flood carried away children, cars, and other stuff. The rain started heavily, and half an hour later, the flood started coming. Carried away 6 children, a woman. Anyway, it appears that the actual count is over 100 people died from this flood. Actually, hundreds, excuse me. Hundreds of people died from that flood. Okay, let's look at this. How deep am I right now? Oh boy, okay. Let's skip this one, go to this one. Let's go to this from 19 hours ago from BBC News, where they dug up some footage from the 90s, had an interview with a woman who, as a 12-year-old, tried to warn the world about climate change.
In 1992, I was 12 years old, and I had the opportunity to speak to the United Nations plenary session of the Earth Summit in Rio de Janeiro. I remember that moment very clearly. I think it's burned into my memory. I remember just such a clear sense of purpose. I knew exactly why I was there. I knew exactly what I had to say, and I knew that I could talk directly to them. I knew what I was there to do.
Coming up here today, I have no hidden agenda. I am fighting for my future.
If you look at the video, you can tell how focused everyone was. People were really moved. Even, the security guards were really paying attention. So it was amazing.
Losing my future is not like losing an election or a few points on the stock market. I am here to speak for all generations to come. In my life, I have dreamt of seeing the great herds of wild animals, jungles and rainforests full of birds and butterflies. But now I wonder if they will even exist for my children to see. Did you have to worry of these things when you were my age?
In this last spike of media attention that I've received, I have constantly been compared and asked to reflect on Greta Thunberg, which is a huge honor for me. I think she's just this incredible young warrior. She's just taking it on this whole other level because she's a child of the 21st century. And so the way she's using her Instagram, the way she has really catalyzed a movement, I think is totally incredible, and it's really specific to her moment and who she is at this time. But I also, really always am taken aback because there have been so many youth activists before me, after me, before Greta, and who will continue to come up. Young people are always the people calling for social revolution historically. Adults have been beaten down, and we know that actually if we wanted to create change, we'd have to do this, that, and the other. So there's so many reasons that we know of why things can't change. Those take us away from thinking about the bigger picture, and that's what youth have to offer. All they see is possibility. And right now, with this huge colossal existential challenge that humanity has. We have to harness that attitude of possible rather than impossible.
I'm only a child and I don't have all the solutions. But I want you to realize neither do you. If you don't know how to fix it, please stop breaking it.
Back in 1992, climate change was on the horizon and it was identified as going to happen. But it was on the horizon, and today it is here. Climate change, I think, is the most quintessential example of intergenerational crime or intergenerational injustice that we have. If we don't end pumping tons of carbon into the atmosphere, we will have in a very short order a planet that is not habitable or not habitable to comfortable human life. So
exactly. I just thought we would look at this because you know, it just it's 2024. She went as a 12-year-old in 1992, and what have we done in the last 32 years aside from drill more oil and frack for more natural gas, burn more coal, just kind of ruin our planet more. Need to stop. Really need to stop. All right. I'm gonna take a break now. I'll be right back. Well, hope you've all been enjoying the stream so far. If you haven't already, hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe. Really helps me out. If you'd like to help supporting me in another way, well, you got one good option. Go to my Patreon. Become a Galactic producer, where you can get access to space benefits unseen by anybody else. Just gonna do this little intermission here, so you grab yourself a little drink, a little snacky snack, and I'll be right back. back. Let's see. Chat sisters. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. Alright, let's start our coverage here in an unorthodox way of global news by discussing, in some way, space news. This is from a day ago from the Associated Press, where a solar storm could disrupt communications, but also produce the northern lights in the US and Europe.
We owe our existence to the sun. But on the other hand, we have also to be a little bit careful because a star is pretty active, it's pretty explosive, it can be very violent as well.
A solar storm kind of starts with what we call a solar eruption, right? So there can be multiple parts of that eruption.
What happened during the last few days, there is a system of very complex sunspots that came together and formed a huge active region of the sun. And these are extremely active in the span of a day or a day and a half. They launched, I believe, something like 7 coronal mass ejections.
This is sort of a huge explosion that can be associated with the flare, but basically what happens is part of the sun actually lifts off the surface, right? So this plasma, the charged particles, the magnetic field that makes up the sun, part of it actually lifts off the sun and streams away into space. In this case, we've got multiple, 5 at this point, CMEs that are all coming earthward at the same time. And that's pretty unique and special about what's happened over the last few days.
So we might expect power outage in some places. We might also expect some communication disruptions.
All of those different industries, the power industry, the communications industry, the GPS industry, the satellite industry, they're all paying attention and working on the back end so that, 99% of the time, none of us are going to be aware of anything that's happening.
Yep. Thankfully, everything has been a-okay here on the space station and on Earth regarding this solar event, but it has produced some beautiful images. So let's look at this time-lapse footage that was captured across Europe and the US from the Guardian News. Really is lovely. Who can see the northern lights? I can't, unfortunately. Can't see them right now. Wow, look at that. That's beautiful. You live on an amazing planet. You should stop wasting it by ruining it. A large sunspot cluster was spotted, which means the lights could be seen further south than usual. Don't know what that means. Trying to think. whether or not I should finish what I have planned for today, or just save it for Sunday Fun Day, which is coming. It's coming very soon. It's just very quiet tonight, and I know I started super late, so it's like a super secret stream. But you know, I've got a bunch of stuff here to talk about, but I don't know. What do you think, Chad? Should we keep it? Should we just keep going? What do you think? We haven't even gotten more than a bacula, you know? Isn't it Sunday now? Yeah, technically, but this isn't the actual Sunday Fun Day stream, though, right? It's up to me. I appreciate that. Start a poll. That's a good idea. Do that. Well, get your votes in while the poll's still hot. Should I save this content for Sunday Fun Day? Or should we keep going? Well, with 6 votes in so far, continuing the stream is winning by over 30%. half of chat having voted with no winning handedly at the moment. I'll give it another 30 seconds. Get your vote in here. What do you got? Do you want to save it for Sunday Fun Day? Or do you say yes or no? Alright. Well, I guess we will continue. Well, let's start our global coverage now here. First, we are going to talk about Haiti. And the way the media has been covering Haiti to some degree here. But if you're not aware of the developments that have been happening over the last month, I don't blame you. This has been happening for quite some time now. So let's just look at this. Just look at a couple of different videos to kind of recap what's happened in Haiti, especially with regards to the West's involvement in the last month.
Global News has learned that JTF-2, Canada's elite counter-terrorism and hostage rescue unit, has deployed a small number of troops to Haiti to help protect the Canadian embassy. Today, multiple sources told Global News that JTF-2 is on the ground at the Canadian embassy in Haiti. Yesterday, local Haitian media captured rare images of JTF-2 assaulters and published them online. JTF-2 has been deployed previously into similar situations, including Israel, Sudan, and Afghanistan, where they help to evacuate essential embassy staff and protect the embassy, as well as conduct what's known as a rip-out. That's when the special forces and embassy staff destroy computers and sensitive documents so they're not left behind before shutting down the embassy. Tonight, Global Affairs confirmed to Global News that there is a Canadian military presence in Haiti. They have not indicated what the future of the embassy might be just yet.
Okay, we're also going to look at this piece from... Is this Global News? No, this is CBC. Discussing from 2 weeks ago, Canada's military training of troops in the Caribbean.
Inside an old prison compound just outside Kingston, Jamaica, what looks and sounds like a major military operation. In fact, it's a training exercise, the culmination of 4 weeks of military training for troops from 3 Caribbean countries, Jamaica, Bahamas, and Belize, under the guidance of Canadian forces, mostly from Valcartier, Quebec. And all of it with one daunting goal: to get into Haiti, to try to begin to bring order to a place that's now all but overrun by paramilitary gangs. The Canadians...
Oh, it's just completely overrun. Wow. Okay,
to Jamaica,
CBC.
focused on a number of aspects, chief among them instructing first aid in combat zones. The goal is to create a team from the Caribbean that would support troops from Kenya who will lead the mission into Haiti. On this final day of training, Canadians kept careful watch on how it all played out. So too, government and military planners from throughout the region.
It has been...
Well, America has also been involved in this, and to discuss this in a different light, let's look at this from 10 hours ago, where Breakthrough News had a interview with Jemima, what's her last name? Jemima Pierre, and yeah, discusses the real reason why U.S. is now invading Haiti.
I don't want reality.
Since we're talking about misinformation and disinformation and the mainstream media covering stories terribly, we want to turn to Haiti, which has to be one of the worst covered countries in the U.S. media, unfortunately, even though it gets a lot of sensationalistic coverage when major things happening, but a lot of things happening there right now. We want to get you up to speed.
Yeah, and this is one of the difficulties in covering Haiti that I have found personally. The only major news outlets covering Haiti are from outside of Haiti. The fact is Haiti is still a developing nation due to mostly, almost entirely attributable to the West's involvement in that nation. But so because of that, much of the news in Haiti is still delivered by radio, by newspapers and pamphlets. And therefore, oftentimes, the narrative is entirely controlled by voices outside of Haiti. I mean, right now, all three, me and these two individuals here in front of you, none of us are in Haiti. And that is one of the big problems in trying to understand this situation.
Correct context of what's happening in Haiti as a potential invasion looms there, and maybe not potential anymore. Very happy to be joined once again on the show by Dr. Jemima Pierre, who's a professor of global race at the Institute for Race, Gender, Sexuality, and Social Justice at the University of British Columbia, and also, very importantly, a member of the Black Alliance for Peace. Jemima, as always, thanks so much for being with us.
Thanks so much for having me.
Well, I want to start here with this transitional council, which is, being much discussed in the U.S. media.
And as you may remember, we've listened to Dr. Jemima Pierre here on a number of occasions as she's appeared on, I want to say, Democracy Now! At least twice, as well as, I can't think of the other network, but I'm pretty sure we've seen her in multiple places now.
Turning the page, Haiti getting a new government, the implication being that it's a representative one that will start to, do good things. Who is this transitional council and what's their mandate?
Right. Well, let's just begin by saying Haiti's under occupation, has been under occupation for a very long time, since the U.S. removed our elected president in 2004. This presidential council is just a continuation of the same thing, because what's happened is, once Ariel Henry was not allowed to return back to the country, and that's also under speculation as to whether or not the U.S. planned this, or whether or not it was really the armed groups that prevented him from coming back into the country. The U.S. decided to put in a plan to basically, the whole goal is to say free and fair elections, because they keep saying that as if elections under certain terms, under these terms, actually are free and fair.
Right.
But this presidential council was handpicked by the U.S. The participants of the presidential council was handpicked by the U.S. using the CARICOM, the Caribbean countries, in particular, Mia Mottley and Ershon Ali. Mia Mottley is the Prime Minister of Barbados. Ershon Ali was the President of Guyana. And so they handpicked these people to be part of the presidential council. The participants who were already handpicked had to actually agree that the first thing that they would sign on to would be an international intervention into Haiti. So
Exactly. And if you're unaware, the United States did a coup on Haiti in 2004. And essentially ever since then, Haiti has just had a string of corrupt, Western-backed, installed prime ministers. Ariel Henry was just the last one, or at least the last one since the new one. But he was appointed by Jovenel Moise's government. Jovenel Moise was appointed by somebody else. It's not democracy. That's not what's happening here.
in order to be at the table to discuss Haiti's future, you had to agree to the terms of the U.S. And the CARICOM leaders were very much the ones, I think, work as overseers on this plantation.
Exactly. No, and I forgot to mention. I can't remember the new guy's name, but there's a new one that was just who was the previous finance minister, I believe, of Haiti. What the fuck is this guy's name? New Haiti prime minister. No, Ariel Henry is not the new prime minister. What the fuck? Ah, Michel Patrick Boisvert. And was he the finance minister? Yeah, he was the former finance and economy minister under Ariel Henry, who nobody wanted in power in the first place. Do you see the hypocrisy?
Called the Caribbean. They work as overseers because they're the ones that forced that. And so they became the people running the discussion, even though Anthony Blinken was in the room, France, which has no business being on this side of the Atlantic. France was in the room, Canada was in the room, Mexico was in the room, and Brazil was part of these negotiations. And so what you had is on March 11th, they had these negotiations to create this presidential council. The CARICOM and US and core group members met secretly without any Haitian representatives. And then after they handpicked the representatives, they brought them in for the negotiations. And so from the very beginning, this 7-member or 9-member presidential council is unconstitutional. But then again, there hasn't been anything constitutional in Haiti since 2004. And so they created this 9-member presidential council that they handpicked that agreed to foreign invasion. And it's not a democratically elected group. It's not as if you went through the country and decided to pick who would be participating in Conversation 80. It's also the same old political class, right? Including members of the PHDK Ariel Henry's party, including the Lavalas party. So they're all these same old politicians that they chose to do this. And so now, of course, what it makes sense is that there have been infighting within the presidential council, but what they did do was follow through with what they were supposed to do, basically call Kenya to send in the force, which is really the U.S.
Exactly.
And so what's happening?
Okay, hold on. This is like a 16-minute interview. I'm trying to remember what the... I'm still not taking enough notes when I watch these videos. So I just got to try and remember where I want us to listen.
The reasoning you'll see given for this invasion, why it's so necessary, is because law and order has broken down in Haiti. There's just, all these criminal gang elements that have taken over. No one has control. There's political instability. We know this is not actually what the U.S. or its allies care about. So what's the actual reason for doing this?
The U.S. is militarizing the Caribbean, and they're doing that in preparation for whatever war they're planning with China and to go against Russia and China's influence in the region. And this is very important because as you obviously know, there's the problems between Guyana and Venezuela over the oil fields, the Essequibo oil fields, right?
Yeah.
The U.S. has a huge military presence right now in Guyana because the Guyanese called in the U.S. To support. So there's that. You have Operation Trade Winds, which are military exercises that are ongoing right now, hosted by Barbados, where you have participants from all over, including from Europe, from Britain, from France, Netherlands, participating in military exercises. This is like in the U.S. so-called backyard, right? So this is like the militarization of what's going on. This military intervention was scheduled back. The U.S. has been wanting this since 2021, when Jovenel Moïse was assassinated, Haiti's former president. And what they wanted to do was to have this intervention to actually protect Ariel Henry, who was their puppet. And they wanted the intervention. They're saying it was an emergency back in 2022 when people were protesting the removal of fuel subsidies, protesting the rise in insecurity, and the importation of guns and ammunition into the country through these ports, and where the U.S. knows where they're coming from. And I think what's happening is the U.S. actually wants to has always wanted a military presence in Haiti and wants Haiti as a base. In fact, I would point you to this. We published on Black Agenda Report the Global Fragilities Act, which is the U.S. plan for control using the Department of Defense, Department of State, and USAID for its new Monroe Doctrine type policy in the region. In fact, they had a 45-page report called The U.S. Strategy to Prevent Conflict and Promote Stability, 10-Year Strategic Plan for Haiti, which they removed from the website after we started talking about it, but it was on the U.S. Embassy, U.S. State Department website. So they already have a 40, and I can send this so that you can put it under your link. They have a 45-page plan, 10-year plan. So that means this is not about gangs. This is about U.S. establishing a permanent presence in Haiti in order for them then to maybe use the UN but to do it under the black faces of Kenyans, people from Benin,
Exactly.
from the Caribbean, and so on. So it's a new form.
It's disgusting. I feign to use this expression, but it's military blackface. It's horrifying, and it's just in propping up the U.S. hegemony in the South. And I think we missed part of this, but she said that multiple U.S. planes landed in Haiti over the last week. I can't remember where she said it in here, and we can't listen to all 15 minutes of this thing. Especially because I'm always stopping and talking, being annoying with me, with my words. Let's go here.
Huge gang problem. Jamaica has had a state of emergency because of gang violence. Mexico has its cartels, but it's Haiti where, you have these, a small number of group of people who are armed, and these arms are being brought in from the U.S., right, through private ports. You have that in the Port-au-Prince region. The rest of the country seems to be okay. Things are going in. But you're telling the world that there's a civil war in Haiti and we have to do something right now or else Haiti will go into chaos. They've been saying there's an emergency. This is what the Chinese ambassador and Russian ambassador said the last time they met on Haiti. They're saying that you all have been saying it's an emergency. We have to go into Haiti since 2022. It's 2024. You haven't gone into Haiti. So they're manufacturing consent, but it's the consent works because people have this assumption that these Black people in Haiti are not able to control themselves because they have a long history of violence and so on and so forth. So the consent is easy to manufacture, right? But the reality is, as you say, even after the earthquake, it was Haitians helping each other. It was communities coming together, feeding each other, and so on. And right now, Haiti had the Bois-Calais movement where they're catching the young armed men themselves and doing, community justice. So hey, the West.
Oh shit, I forgot. Unfortunately, this interview cuts out. I assume they had some sort of a connection problem. How long did it cut out for? Oh, there we go.
About the use of Haiti in this Cold War with China, where do countries in the region stand on this issue, aside from the Caribbean nations, which you've laid that out? Where do countries is anybody opposing this in the region? Furthermore, can you elaborate a bit on what we're hearing from China and Russia on this intervention that the U.S. is leading in Haiti?
Well, to answer your second question first, China and Russia have actually been against this intervention, this call for an intervention from the very beginning. In fact, this vote has been going in front of the UN Security Council since 2022. It's only in October that they abstained. And I'm not sure why they abstained, but I think they abstained because the US was able to get the CARICOM countries, in particular Mia Mottley, to convince people that this operation needs to happen. And so China and Russia have always said that this does not seem like a viable operation. And quickly, before I talk about the Caribbean nations, I want to just let your viewers know, this is not a UN mission. This is not a UN mission. It's sanctioned by the UN Security Council, but it's not under the purview of the UN, which is why the US is paying Kenya $300 million. It's funding the CARICOM nations to do this. In fact, it was the whole point. The proposed mission is ill-considered because part of it is there's no full plan. There's a 30, which is why the Congress refused to fund it. Actually,
exactly, man. And I don't even know. We can't even get them to stop Palestine, and it's a genuine fucking ethnic cleansing and genocide. And how are we supposed to get them to stop this one? It's just so frustrating that not just Canada, but the United States, both deeply involved in this situation. Anyway, let's move on from that. I think we get it. And by we, I mean the West has been really fucking Haiti up. And now we're trying to claim that this regime change that we're doing is somehow just being helpful and not involved in a long-term strategy of hegemonic planning involving the region. God. Alright, let's go on here. And a bunch of stuff has been happening in Europe, mostly protests and Eurovision. Protests and Eurovision. So let's do that too. This is from Channel 4 News 2 days ago. And I'd like to point out the way that they deal with this. It's very, very British. But I gotta say, I think they might have something here. They're doing a great job. This is from 2 days ago from Channel 4 News inside the King's College encampment at Cambridge University. Alright, Cambridge, show us what you got.
It is one of the most prestigious universities in the world. On its grounds, you'd be forgiven for thinking is a music festival.
And to be fair, it's not just...
In fact, it's been declared a liberated zone, or the People's University for Palestine.
You don't want to be identified.
Access is tightly controlled. Before we were allowed to film inside, an organising committee took a vote. They don't use their real names, and our media liaison officer was codenamed Dragonfly.
You say that you want to be open and speak to people, but we had to get permission to come in, you had to have a vote on whether you'd give interviews. What's all that about?
You have to understand that.
You'll notice they're both wearing kippas here, or yarmulkes. So I'm assuming they're both Jewish.
Permission to come in, you had to have a vote on whether you'd give interviews. What's all that about?
You have to understand that we're in an extremely hostile media landscape that is quite intent on using spaces like Cambridge and Oxford, where there's also an encampment right now, as the kind of nexus of these culture wars.
On the lawns of Cambridge's King's College, this encampment is one of a dozen or so that have gone up across the UK, inspired by the much larger occupations in America. Among their aims, they want universities to stop doing business with Israel or any companies that support its ongoing war with Hamas.
Who's paying for all of the food and who paid for all of the tents?
So we did a fundraiser beforehand, and we're continuing to have loads of donations.
Maurice and Esther are from a group called Cambridge Jews for Justice in Palestine. They're not using their real names because, they say, their decision to join the encampment has led to some hostility.
How does that make you feel?
It's extremely upsetting. People who come from the outside and are hostile towards us, who claim that on some grounds we're not really Jewish.
There are some Jewish students we've spoken to who say that they feel intimidated by this. What do you say to that?
Well, you know, I think personally I feel really safe and comfortable as a Jew, as, you know, visibly a Jew. I'm wearing my kippah all day. We've got colourful tents, we've got colourful flags. It's all about, you know, peace and love. We're making nice music.
And the atmosphere has mainly been peaceful. Some students told me they've borrowed tactics from other movements, including advice on using burner phones. A communal, vegan lunch is served. But this Jewish student told me he feels the intimidation isn't physical, but psychological.
It's scary to see Intifada.
Psychological intimidation. Wow. Wow, dude.
Victory. There is nothing about the hostages. It's only one-sided.
Just because they're not talking about hostages doesn't mean that they don't care about the hostages. It's a ridiculous suggestion. Fact is, the media hasn't really talked that much about the hostages either. Does that mean that the media is being intimidating to everybody?
Something that I feel every single minute of the day, all the time.
The students say they'll stay camped out here until all of their demands are met.
Like, exactly how many stories have we seen of the American hostages in Gaza talked about talked about in the media? Not that much, right? I think it's because it was kind of an inconvenient truth with regards to the fact that we were sending the very weapons that were probably going to wind up killing those very hostages.
All the supplies they need. They've even got a toilet, although the sign says it's for emergencies only. Now, these camps have attracted a lot of attention. The Prime Minister has issued a statement saying that the right to free speech doesn't include the right to harass people. And Rishi Sunak has summoned vice-chancellors to Downing Street to discuss the safety of Jewish students.
Wow. We need the vice-chancellors, says Rishi Sunak. Yeah, figure this out. Good God. Well, I think the students are doing a fantastic job there. You know, considering what it is that they are trying to do, the sort of solidarity there and planning. I can really appreciate it. Okay. Now let's look at some more protests, but these are protests that have been happening at Eurovision. Where Greta Thunberg arrived in Malmo to help protest against Israel. I gotta say, Greta Thunberg just gets solidarity. She really does. It's just beautiful. I don't know what that means. And there's a bunch of footage of this. We're just going to kind of go through some of it. Not even go back and forth. Greta Thunberg joined a pro-Palestinian protest near the venue of Eurovision Song Contest. Jesus Christ. Unnecessary harassment from the cops. All right, this is from 5 hours ago, where Greta Thunberg was arrested after protesting the Eurovision Song Contest here. Yep. So that was Sweden's reaction to these protests and Greta Thunberg. Okay, now this situation came out. I still don't know exactly what to make of this. But let's at least look at this briefly. So while they did not disallow Israel's contestant, suddenly, after having passed the semifinals and into the finals, the Eurovision has disallowed Dutch artist Joost Klein after some sort of controversy.
The final of the Eurovision Song Contest will be held in Sweden later today. The usual sequins and spangles are dimmed with tension over protests and heightened security. Eurovision is billed as non-political, but is taking place against the backdrop of the ongoing Israel-Hamas conflict. And now there's another controversy that involves the Dutch singer who was now expelled from performing this morning after what organizers call, quote, a backstage.
Did you just hear that? Did CBC just not call it a war? They didn't call it a genocide. They called it a the Israel-Hamas conflict. I don't know if I feel better about that or not, but I feel like it's a change in tone from them.
Incident.
I just noticed
So for more on all of this, we're now joined by journalist Daniel Rosny. You know you've been keeping an eye on this. What's the latest on this now investigation?
So you join me backstage at the Eurovision Song Contest Arena here in Malmö, Sweden. A final rehearsal before tonight's show is taking place right now. 160 million people are expected to watch it, but they will not be watching the Netherlands. The Netherlands have been disqualified just hours before what is one of the biggest entertainment shows in the world is taking place. This has never happened before in the Eurovision history. We have this statement from the Eurovision organisers, the European Broadcasting Union. They say Swedish police have investigated a complaint made by a female member of the production crew after an incident following his performance in Thursday night's semi-final. While the legal process takes its course, it would not be appropriate for him to continue in the contest. Now, that has become a massive story here in Europe. The Netherlands was one of the favourites to win the competition. It's been a hugely popular song. His music video alone has had more than 25 million streams on YouTube. And in response, the Dutch broadcaster has said, "We have taken note of the disqualification by the EBU. It says it finds the disqualification disproportionate and is shocked by the decision, and it deeply regrets this, and it will come back to this later." So with just a
So I honestly don't know what to make of all this. I mean, it sounds like he may have harassed somebody. I don't know. There's so little detail to it. I just find it fascinating with that level of detail being public right now. Like that. I know it's just interesting that they decided to disallow somebody for something other than, being. It's just interesting because there's been so many calls to get rid of Israel, and honestly, I don't know. This guy may very well have done something completely fucked up. It's hard to say since they have given zero information about it. But let's look at this. Ireland's Eurovision. What do you call it? Contestant, if you will. Their entrant to the contest is a non-binary person by the name of Bambi Thug. And she's been very somewhat outspoken about pro-Palestinian, what do you call it?
A matter of hours.
About like Palestine, and she said this. What is this? Like 21 hours ago? Let's look at this. This is from the Daily Record. Let's just watch this.
Yesterday.
Oops, there we go.
A drum.
Bobby, can I ask, how did you respond when you heard that Israel had made it through to the grand final?
I cried with my team. Next question, please.
And I actually watched some interviews where she discussed why she decided not to boycott the contest itself. It was her opinion that if they were going to allow Israel, that Israel shouldn't just be going there without any competition. So, you know, I guess I can understand that. You think they should have boycotted? Well, I can understand that too. You know, I think you can argue for both sides. In that case, if, you know, as an artist, you know, she made a decision, right? Or they made it. Excuse me, they made a decision that was fucking unintentional. So sorry. Okay, what is next? Okay, we're gonna look at a couple of more videos here about the protests that were happening outside of the Eurovision Song Contest here. The lava lamp is in full Technicolor. It changes colors whenever it wants to, you know?
Palestine is almost free!
It is important to demonstrate because Israel shouldn't be allowed to compete in Eurovision. I mean, we stand there in solidarity with the Palestinian people. We haven't forgotten them. And we want to show the world that we are against Israel competing. You can't throw bombs with one hand and glitter with another hand.
So yeah, people are not feeling it. That much is clear. But yeah, we could change the lava lamp to other colors as well. I like this color. This is nice. It is a void lamp. It's not a regular kind of lava lamp. I found it floating through space. And so, it's got special powers. You think it would have been a great career move to have boycotted? You're only slightly exaggerating. Yeah, well, I mean, a fully silent album is a strange concept, I feel. I'm trying to think about, I mean, maybe you could get a ton of views by doing that because it wouldn't bother anybody in any sort of way. But, huh. Where'd you come up with this idea about a fully silent album? It's a strange concept. To be clear, it was black and white until today. The void lamp? Yes. Yes, it was black and white until today. You have noticed a change. It's like, what's it called? It's like one of those highlights for kids magazines. You're picking out all the differences. Well done. You're not losing your mind. Okay. Let's move away from the Eurovision Song Contest. You like noise? I understand that. Some people like noise, some people like silence. Ireland would have rewarded them for standing with Palestine. Totally. I see what you're saying. So you think that Ireland would have just listened to silence for weeks? Interesting. We'll never know, I suppose. Some other timeline that happened, but we are in this timeline. All right, let's look at this. 15 hours ago, from ABC News, where Russia has launched a new offensive in Ukraine. Whoops, I went to the wrong video. I think that was more, what was it called? That was more of the protests.
And this morning, fighting around the country's
second
largest city is intensifying after a major Russian offensive. ABC's Lama Hassan joins us now from London with more on this. Good morning, Lama.
Yeah, good morning to you, Gio. That's right. Tens of thousands of Russian soldiers have been massing along the border with Ukraine in the northeastern part of the country, moving in with some of the fiercest fighting for months, trying to push through Ukraine's defense line.
This morning, Ukraine on the defense after Russian forces launched a major new push in northeastern Ukraine. In a pre-dawn surprise attack, Russian soldiers moved across the Ukrainian border towards Kharkiv, Ukraine's second largest city, trying to break through its defensive lines, from the air using guided aerial bombs and on the ground with heavy artillery. These satellite images showing the effects of fighting in Vovchansk, fire and smoke visible from above. First responders trying to extinguish these homes set ablaze in the wake of the Russian attack, leaving at least 2 people injured. Heavy shelling forcing families to flee Vovchansk and other nearby towns.
Наші позиції.
Well, the fighting continues in Ukraine. And, wait, Pootie Tang did a silent album? Is that true? I feel like you're making that up. I've never heard of this. Now I have to Google it. Looks like it's one song. The silent song. Could be wrong. Still cool though. Okay, what are we doing? Okay, we're going to quickly discuss China's meeting with Hungary, as they were the last stop on China's... was it the last stop? I think they were. Either way, they were one of the countries that China's leader Xi Jinping visited on his trip through the EU, where he met directly with Viktor Orban. Right, it's Victor, isn't it? I think so. Chinese President Xi Jinping received a warm welcome in the Hungarian capital. Xi announced that China's ties with Hungary have been upgraded to an all-weather partnership. The new designation brings Budapest to the highest level of diplomatic relations. We had an in-depth exchange of views and reached consensus on the development of bilateral ties. In the new era and issues of common concern, we witnessed the exchange of a series of important bilateral cooperation documents. I have full confidence in the prospects for bilateral relations. This year marks the 75th anniversary of diplomatic relations between China and Hungary. Following their talks, Xi and Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orbán struck 17 bilateral deals. It is indeed a privilege and opportunity for Hungary that China has invited us to participate in the Chinese economy and play a role in the modernization of the Chinese economy. I said Chinese economy twice in the same sentence. Okay, hold on. We're not going to watch this whole video. There is another part I just wanted to look at regarding the 17 agreements that they supposedly made. Where is that? Hey, don't start lagging software. I don't appreciate you. A lot of talking. Talk. Alright, I guess we'll start it like right here. Hungary now ranks the same. Oh, whatever. It's my first visit to Hungary as Chinese president, and I have experienced an especially touching moment during this visit. After I got off the plane yesterday, a young woman presented flowers to me. Then I was told this was the same girl who presented flowers to me during my visit here 15 years ago. She was only 6 years old back then, and now she has become a young woman. It was touching to me because her growth from a child to a beautiful young woman symbolizes the growth of the friendship between China and Hungary. Alright, where is this list? I think it's right here at the end. Budapest was the last stop of Xi's European tour after visiting France and Serbia. I was right. Alright, where's this list? I know it's here somewhere. What? Did I pass it? Oh, son of a bitch. Hold on, chat. God dang it. God dang it, Dale. That was the whole point of watching this video. Well, not the whole point. It was like one of the main reasons. I need to start writing down things about where I want to read them. There it is. The pacts cover cooperation on the Belt and Road Initiative, investment, nuclear energy, supply chain, finance, trade, green development and exports of Hungarian agricultural products, culture, technology, and media services. Wow, that's very... I feel like that covers pretty much everything you could think of. Okay, I clearly haven't left anything out of that deal. Alright, let's look at this from 13 hours ago from Al Jazeera regarding the support for full UN membership for Palestine.
Overwhelming support at the UN General Assembly for Palestine's bid for full membership. It echoes the rising condemnation of Israel's war on Gaza. But the US says it will veto the motion again at the Security Council. So what difference could the resolution make? This is Inside Story. Right. Last month, the United States vetoed a resolution tabled by Algeria and says...
And we were kind of talking about that. What was that? Was it yesterday that it actually happened? I think it was yesterday, wasn't it? Man, everything's just blurring together. It was either yesterday or 2 days ago. Either we were talking about how the UN Security Council was the final step in becoming a full member state in the UN. However, that vote, if you missed it, Palestine is now a member of the UN. They just have not gotten this last little detail out of the way.
We'll do so again. So can the moral weight of world opinion reflected at the UN General Assembly pressure the US to reconsider? What difference could the backing of 143 nations make to Palestine's non-member special observer status? We'll explore these and other issues with our guests in a moment, but first this report by Katia Lopez-Horian.
Condemnation of Israel's war on Gaza has led to protests like these, from Sana'a in Yemen to Jordan's capital, Amman. Rallies in solidarity with Palestinians that first took hold in U.S. universities have spread around the world. And at the United Nations, the General Assembly voted overwhelmingly to grant new rights and privileges to Palestine. It's also calling on the Security Council to reconsider Palestine's bid to become a full UN member.
We want peace. We want freedom. A yes vote is a vote for Palestinian existence. It is not against any state.
Israel says,
arguably, the greatest work of nonfiction of the 20th century.
the move is absurd, especially after Hamas's attack on October the 7th. While using a prop, the Israeli ambassador said the resolution disregards UN statutes.
You are shredding the UN Charter with your own hands.
It's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off for
that's
them.
what you're doing, shredding the UN Charter. Shame on you.
The UN vote may be widely symbolic, but it comes as countries such as Spain, Ireland, and other EU members plan to formally recognize the state of Palestine on May 21st.
The international community are overwhelmingly saying that they want that long-term resolution to the conflict, and that involves two states.
Despite new rights and privileges, Palestine remains a non-member observer state at the UN without the right to vote. And the U.S. has made it clear it will use its veto power to block Palestinian membership and statehood until important issues are resolved with Israel. Katia Lopez-Horian, Al Jazeera.
Like what? What important issues? It's ridiculous. It's so ridiculous. Anyway, we will see what happens with regards to the U.S.'s voting one way or the other about this. There's a couple of people who they interview regarding this. I think it's Jeffrey Sachs and was it Marwan Barghouti? Yeah. So we're gonna listen to a little bit of those interviews.
Focus on the obstacles that are clearly in the way when it comes to Palestine's full membership. But before we go into the obstacles, Mustafa, turning to you, if this decision at the UN means anything, it's where you are. Your reaction
Mustafa.
to what played out at the UN.
Barghouti. Of course, it's not Marwan Barghouti. I think he's in Israeli prison, isn't he? Or did he die? I can't remember. No, I think he's still in prison in Israel. Wait, is Mustafa Barghouti related to Marwan Barghouti? Hold on now. Hold on, now I have to go on a deep dive. What in the fuck? How did I not put this together before? I just searched Marwan like that was going to help. I don't think they're related. They just happen to have the same last name, I guess. Okay.
Well, it means a lot. Besides the symbolic aspect of it, it sends a message, a very powerful political message, that the world is for the rights of Palestinians to be free from occupation, from the system of apartheid, from this terrible genocide.
Look how many lapel pins he's got. First, he's got the top one. He's got the key, which represents Palestinians' land back, going back to their homes that have been taken from them, which many Palestinians carry around. Then it's just a single Palestine pin. Then it's also, I believe that must be it's a South Africa and Palestine combined pin. This guy's got some serious lapel bling.
That is happening. And while we are talking, by the way, the Israelis are committing terrible massacres at this very moment in Rafah and inside Gaza City, in a Zaytun neighborhood and in Jabalia, trying to ethnically cleanse one more time Jabalia area. So, of course, the whole world is sending a very powerful message here that they don't accept what's happening to Palestinians. But more than that, I think this vote that took place exposed how isolated the United States and Israel are. You have to remember that the United States of America, this huge power, and Israel could not mobilize more than 3 countries to vote with them, considering that the others are Palau, Micronesia, Marshall Islands, and Israel and United States itself. I mean, with all due respect, these little islands don't really, I mean, we all know that they vote according to what Americans tell them. So in reality, this is a huge isolation of the American position.
Right.
One moment, please. And also it shows how isolated the fact that the United States have obstructed the membership in the United Nations Security Council. It is totally unacceptable, and the world is saying that.
Right, absolutely.
Okay. Well, there's like 30 minutes of them going back and forth, talking a lot. So, since we're already somehow 3 hours into this stream, I genuinely don't know how this happened. So, I started this as a late night stream. We almost didn't even go to the second half, and now here we are, 3 hours fucking into this thing. How's this happened? Okay, let's move along. This is let's discuss to some length here the role of the United States in this genocide of Palestinians, which Israel has been conducting in front of our eyes. Let's start with PBS NewsHour from a day ago, where according to them, which we all know, we heard this story I think already, if you haven't, Israel has likely violated international humanitarian law in the Gaza war, quote unquote, according to a U.S. report. So, the Biden administration had issued has issued a report. They asked, I forget which agency to do this, but they asked them to assess what contribution American arms were involved in potential war crimes, and they have come back with a pretty resolute, but not entirely resolute answer, but basically saying that, yeah, they're definitely being used for some war crimes.
Welcome to the NewsHour. A highly anticipated report from the State Department concludes that the U.S. may continue to send weapons to Israel despite apparent Israeli violations of international humanitarian law. The findings come just 2 days after the president said he would suspend shipment of 3,500 bombs to Israel as it now surges forces around Rafah in southern Gaza. The administration.
It is a beautiful rocket formation, I gotta say. Well done, chat. Not even sure how you did that. Really impressive.
said it opposes a full-scale ground invasion of Rafah City, where more than 1 million Gazans are sheltering. Here to walk through the details of this report at the end of this eventful week is our Nick Schifrin. So, Nick, tell us more about this report. What more did it say?
The National Security Memorandum number 20 that this report is based on requires the Department of State to obtain, quote, credible and reliable written assurances that Israel, as well as half a dozen other countries that gets U.S. weapons, are using those weapons in accordance of international humanitarian law and not restricting U.S. humanitarian assistance. And the report is very critical, as you said, about the former aspect of that. Quote, it is reasonable to assess that defense articles covered under National Security Memorandum 20 have been used by Israeli security forces since October the 7th in instances inconsistent with its international humanitarian law obligations.
I think you'd have to be an idiot. Hold on. I think you'd have to be an idiot not to be able to come to this conclusion. I'm just going to say it, right? I know that the DOS has a big old budget, but I think we can do it right here from, you know, our various couches, chairs, beds, and other sorts of human seating implements. Stools, perhaps. Maybe you got like a nice log. I don't know. I'm just throwing out ideas now. Maybe like bean bags. I'm not going to judge what you sit on. You do you. Boo. Alright, what is next? We're certainly not going to listen to this whole goddamn PBS NewsHour thing. Okay. Alright, let's just move on to ABC here. What they have to say about this situation.
Now to the Israel-Hamas war and the release of a long-awaited report on whether Israel has violated international law in its use of U.S. weapons in Gaza. ABC's Mary Alice Parks joins us live in studio with more. Good morning to you, Mary Alice. We've heard the Biden administration stepping up its rhetoric, but this is a new level.
Yeah, exactly. Good morning, Janae. I mean, this is a damning report. The strongest criticism we have heard from the Biden administration, saying that Israel likely violated international law in Gaza. But the report stops short of drawing a final conclusion or requiring a change in policy, saying more information is needed.
So I'm just going to point this out. This is essentially the same. It's what is it? It's like a step back from what the ICJ has said, right? It's not saying genocide. It's just war crimes. But they're saying probably. Yeah, probably war crimes. We can't say definitively because we're not literally there because we're a bunch of pussies and we can't just go by what we've clearly seen so far in the last 7 months. So let's just go with this sort of watered down milquetoast kind of what do you call it? Assessment. But it's still basically saying the same thing. They're probably committing war crimes. They're probably committing genocide. And at this point, with the United States saying this, the Israel basically should be thinking to themselves, we've got nobody left. And doing this is really, really dumb. And there's no way we get away with this at this point. And we should stop. We should stop right now. Because, everybody thinks we're committing war crimes and probable genocide. It's not a good look. There's already been discussion of ICC warrants for Israeli officials, which I would love to see come to fruition here at some point. Mrs. McCain? Wait, was she? I didn't notice that. In that room? And at the interview we were just looking at? What are we talking about? Huh? Wait, which McCain? The former president's wife. I can't think of what her name is. Or no, he wasn't the president. No, I'm sorry. I almost called him the presidential candidate and senator from Arizona, right? He was Arizona, right? She was in Gaza? Say what? When did that happen? Hold on. Say, well, I feel like John McCain's wife, yeah. I want to say Barbara, but I know that's wrong. It's Barbara Bush. Cindy McCain. All right, I'm going to search this. Cindy McCain, Gaza. Oh my God. Cindy McCain went on NBC? Oh God. You might have to add this. Maybe we'll watch this tomorrow. Oh my God. Cindy McCain says there's a full-blown famine in northern Gaza. If Cindy McCain says it, oh my God. We got problems. I almost just jumped out of my seat to like go to my fridge and start just, I don't know. What do I have? I could wait until I'm positioned over Gaza and just start throwing food out the airlock in that direction. Jesus Christ. Okay, now I'm gonna settle down. Okay. Sorry, that just alarmed me. The fact that Cindy McCain is saying it's what? Oh, Cindy's very sus, but that but seriously though? What? Oh God. Okay, all right. I'm calmed. I'm down. I'm back. All right. Let's move along. Who would you say is more sus? Cindy McCain or Meghan McCain? One for Cindy, 2 for Meghan. All right, what's next? BBC News. Let's listen to what BBC has to say. By the way, I do have an actual conclusion to this deep dive, which will hopefully be satisfying to everyone. And by deep dive, I mean media deep dive in the way it's being covered currently. They really are trying to lay... You think... Yeah, I think we all agree that Meghan McCain is more sus than Cindy McCain. That's fair. That's a fair assessment. 22? Wow.
The Israeli military says about 300,000 Palestinians have left the city of Rafah since Monday, when Israel told them to move to a nearby district of Gaza. The Israelis have declared a narrow coastal strip at Al-Mawasi to be a safe humanitarian zone, but the UN says it has no running water or proper sanitation. Israel is planning an assault on Hamas fighters in Rafah and has ordered tens of thousands more residents from eastern districts of the city to leave.
Hold on. Wait a second. I have to look at something. Excuse me. Sorry about that. Is this the same spot? Or maybe not. It all looks the same. So hard to tell. No, I don't think it's the same.
Orders have also been issued for thousands of people in parts of northern Gaza. Last night, a long-awaited US government report criticized Israel's use of American-supplied weapons in the Gaza war, saying it's reasonable to assess they have been used in breach of international humanitarian law in some instances. This report from our Middle East correspondent, Yolande Nell.
Now a ghost town. Parts of Rafah that were crammed full of people just days ago are rapidly emptying out. Palestinians fleeing in their thousands as Israel...
Dude, how many internal, like, exodi... or is it exoduses? Exodusiuses? How many fucking internal displacements are Palestinians gonna have to go through here? This shit is out of hand. It's been out of hand, but this is just nonsense. Gonna move 1 million people at once right now? Jesus. You know what happens when they move? Can anybody guess what's gonna happen? Can anybody in chat guess? Oh, thank you for the blessings. I appreciate you. I'm pretty sure I don't have the plague, which I'm pretty sure is where that came from. But anybody have a guess for me as to what's gonna happen once they all move? If they do, all are forced to move somewhere else? Because I'll tell you what my guess is. My guess is that once they've completely cleared Rafah out, that the new claim will be that... I think this is obvious. This is an obvious sort of development, right? But my thinking is they'll just claim that Hamas is now there. They're in Khan Yunis now, where we told them to go. We're gonna have to go and do a, we're gonna have to go invade Khan Yunis now. Sorry, everybody better move if you're not Hamas. This needs to stop. All right, let's listen to just a tiny more of this shit.
Signals it's now set to push in further from the east, issuing new evacuation orders. There's no choice. We have to go to the coast like everyone else, Ahmed says. Israeli airstrikes and artillery shelling have caused panic and Palestinian casualties. Israel says it's taking action against Hamas in one of its last strongholds, here attacking a launch site for rockets fired at an Israeli city. But with Israel's capture of one main border crossing and another blocked off by fighting, this is the 5th day with no aid getting into southern Gaza. There are severe shortages.
Exoduses is the plural. Thank you, PB. I appreciate you looking that up for me. I can't look up everything that I want to look up at all times and also run the stream. Kills my curiosity. God damn it.
Food, clean water and fuel, deepening the humanitarian crisis. So far, Israel's military is describing its offensive in Rafah as limited, but the world is watching to see if this turns into the full...
Yeah, keep saying that. Maybe it'll become true. Right. Okay. Ooh, Raptors in chat. That's what I need. Hold on. I need to write that down. That's what I need. I need a sound shot of that. Why haven't I thought of that until now? That's a great one. Okay. Alright. Focusing back in. Alright, we are going to... This is much more recent than those. Those are all from like 15 hours ago, around that time, to about a day ago. This is from 6 hours ago, where the Israeli military has ordered more evacuations from Rafah and intensified airstrikes. So this is the 3rd time they've ordered more evacuations in the last, 5 days?
Explosions and smoke across Rafah, the last major area of Gaza the Israelis have not yet taken. But with a potential ground invasion looming, thousands in the southern city, including people in refugee camps, have been told to leave. Nearly 35,000 people have been killed in Gaza, according to the Hamas-run health ministry. The latest, this baby, killed when an Israeli airstrike hit its family's home. Attacks like those often carried out with arms supplied by the Americans, and a new report from the U.S. State Department finds that Israel potentially violated international humanitarian law in Gaza using weapons provided by the U.S. But...
Oh my God. Do you hear? Global news sounds like a real news outlet for a second here. Like the second that the United States actually admitted that they might have funded war crimes, now I guess we'll try and say the truth for a little bit. Yeah, wow.
There's no definitive conclusion.
The administration is okay. Now let's look at this, where we can discuss this in a slightly different tone, I would say. I've got a little video here for us here towards the end of this stream, which we are quickly approaching. Let's watch this video from 17 hours ago from a little channel on the old YouTube by the name of Zateo with a Mr. Mehdi Hassan. In this video, he presses President Joe Biden on his quote-unquote red line for Israel's actions.
Welcome to Mehdi Unfiltered here in Washington, D.C. I'm Mehdi Hassan. On today's show, as the Israeli offensive in Rafah escalates, I'll speak to an American doctor stuck in Gaza, 2 former Israeli soldiers turned peace activists who served in the last Gaza war, as well as my childhood hero, former football star Gary Lineker, who's become a thorn in the side of Britain's Conservative government. So, what are we waiting for? Let's go. In diplomatic circles, everyone knows what a red line is. It's the line you don't cross. It's the point of no return. It's a big deal.
Oh, is that
Israeli
what it is?
leaders have long been obsessed with red lines. In 1975, Israeli Foreign Minister Yigal Allon said that Washington has managed to draw a red line, which all the Arab countries know they must not cross, that America is not going to sacrifice Israel for the sake of Arab support. The following year, in 1976, Yitzhak Rabin set out a red line in Lebanon for the Syrian army. Benjamin Netanyahu, speaking at the UN in 2012, added a red line to his weird cartoon image of an alleged Iranian nuclear bomb. Today, however, the red line that is dominating the news is a red line that Israel was supposed to not cross, a red line laid down by the most powerful man on earth, the President of the United States, Joe Biden.
What is your red line with Prime Minister Netanyahu? Do you have a red line? For instance, would invasion of Rafah, which you have urged him not to do, would that be a red line?
It is a red line, but I'm never going to leave Israel. The defense of Israel is still critical, so there's no red line. I'm going to cut off all weapons so they don't have the Iron Dome to protect them. They don't have, but there's red lines that if he crosses, and he cannot have 30,000 more Palestinians dead.
Now, as you saw there, Joe Biden in that same interview said his red line was Israel going into Rafah, but he also said he wasn't going to put any red lines on his overall support for Israel. He wasn't going to abandon Israel, that he would stand by Israel. And he has.
It's strange. It's very strange. So, so the red line is Rafah, but that red line isn't a real red line. It's actually not a line at all.
Additionally, up until this week, when it emerged that his administration is pausing shipment of a delivery of US bombs and ammo to Israel. Why? Because the administration isn't happy about Benjamin Netanyahu's decision to mount a full-scale invasion of Rafah, now home to 1.2 million Palestinians, half of them children, in defiance of the Prime Minister's own war cabinet. And on Wednesday night, on CNN, the president himself said this.
I know that you have paused, Mr. President, shipments of 2,000-pound U.S. bombs to Israel due to concern that they could be used in any offensive on Rafah. Have those bombs, those powerful 2,000-pound bombs, been used to kill civilians in Gaza?
Civilians have been killed in Gaza as a consequence of those bombs and other ways in which they go after population centers. And I made it clear that if they go into Rafah, they haven't gone into Rafah yet. If they go into Rafah, I'm not supplying the weapons that have been used historically to deal with Rafah, to deal with the cities, to deal with that problem. We're going to continue to make sure Israel is secure in terms of Iron Dome and their ability to respond to attacks like came out of in the Middle East recently, but it's just wrong. We're not going to supply the weapons and the artillery shells used that have been used.
Artillery shells as well.
Yeah, artillery shells.
So, just to understand what they're doing right now in Rafah, is that not going into Rafah as you define it yet?
They haven't gone into the population centers. What they did is right on the border, and it's causing problems with.
Oh, I get it. So they didn't actually cross the red line that doesn't exist because they haven't gone into the population centers, right? Huh. Weird. Okay.
Now, in terms of with Egypt, which I've worked very hard to make sure we have a relationship and help. Guy. But I've made it clear to Bibi and the War Cabinet, they're not going to get our support if, in fact, they go in these population centers. We're not walking away from Israel's security. We're walking away from Israel's ability to wage war in those areas.
So it's not over your red line yet?
Not yet, but we've held up the weapons. We've held up the one shipment as an old shipment designed. We've held that up.
Finally, the President of the United States admitted what we all know, that American-made bombs have killed Palestinian civilians in Gaza. Finally, the President of the United States recognizing what many of us have long recognized, that he has leverage over Israel. He has the power to change Israel's behavior by restricting...
Seriously, how many times have we fucking said it, though? Like, just on this channel. Because it's not just me saying it. But I just want to quantify it in that way. I feel like me, personally, I have said that we could use our leverage by the fact that we give them billions and billions and billions of dollars to Israel over the last 50, 60 years, or however long it's been. You know, actually try to influence them with pressure by way of that leverage point. It's simple negotiation tactics, and yet our government has acted like diplomacy is this sort of mystery thing.
Aid, restricting arms, restricting US support for this genocide. See? Pressure works. But I can't help but think, if only he had said what he said on CNN on Wednesday night, on May the 8th, on October the 8th, or even November the 8th, or December the 8th. Think about how many Palestinians might still be alive today if he had said what he's saying now, back then. As for his red line, suggesting that Israel isn't trampling all over it right now vis-a-vis Rafah and the offensive operations there, is just disingenuous.
Exactly. Alright, we're not going to watch that whole thing. If you're not already, definitely go subscribe to Zeteo, which is Mehdi Hassan's new channel on YouTube. Which is already doing incredibly well, by the way. Pretty incredible. Really. Alright. Since they recently said on live stream, while I was watching it, that they are giving essentially leftist creators such as myself carte blanche to, well, alright, carte blanche might not be the right word to use here, but giving us loose permission to clip their content, I just figured we would watch part of this a little channel you might be familiar with.
Bibi Netanyahu on,
I know,
on with Dr. Phil to respond to I don't know what this is about.
I guess Dr. Phil went to Israel.
I guess that's it.
Dr. Phil goes to Israel.
And I mean, did he do this line in other places, Netanyahu, or is, I mean, because this is quoted in the Times. I guess that makes sense. I mean, Dr. Phil's, you know, big. But here is Bibi Netanyahu with Dr. Phil responding to the announcement by Biden that he's going to condition some of the offensive military weapons.
How is that beneficial to Israel's future, right? If anything, this full-scale invasion of Rafah, which they are already essentially underway with, it will just cement what everyone has been thinking and saying about the war crimes and genocide happening in front of our fucking eyes. And why Dr. Phil has come here, I think it's some sort of bald solidarity thing. I honestly don't know what's happening here.
All our
we're next? How is Israel in danger right now? Aside from the fact that they're attacking a bunch of people on their borders, like Lebanon and like Iran and like who else? So Syria. Sorry, I'm just like such a long list. It's hard to remember them all.
Saudis are next, because if Israel is pushed not to destroy Hamas because of this tactic of
you know,
using...
first off, it's interesting to hear the domino theory being revived again. Now, just it's not communist. It's, I guess, Palestinian nationalists.
Islamists, it's terrorists. It's a fight between the civilized world and the world of darkness, as they've invoked before.
I mean, the idea that, we know the reporting says that Iran was not made aware, was not involved in the planning of this. So it's very, very convenient to make this a broader conflict between Iran, I guess, and the Western allies or whatever it is that he wants to make it about. But the real question that Dr. Phil should ask and won't ask is it possible for you to do what you're saying you're doing? Like, do experts, military leaders, the Secretary of Defense of the United States, let's say, do they think it's possible you can do what you're doing? That's the real question.
We know that
It's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off for them.
It's possible you can do what you're doing? That's the real question.
we know that we know the answer, right?
We know the answer, and it's
we know
not.
there has not been any credible military expert who has said they can eradicate Hamas. Okay.
No kidding. No kidding, they have more than fingernails. They have billions of dollars of U.S. weapons lying around.
Okay, hold on one sec.
Victorious.
We will be victorious. We get it. We have more than fingernails. We're very strong. We're very strong. Yeah, I mean, just notice, I think... So we played a clip yesterday of Netanyahu's now calling the opposition genocidal, and you could see this is how right-wingers often do things, like when a word...
Just projecting so hard. They're the genocidal ones. We're just trying to prevent a genocide. It just happens when we prevent... maybe you don't know, and this is not written anywhere. This is people just know. For people in the know, they know that this is the case. You know, to stop a genocide, you have to genocide. That's just how it goes.
I don't want reality.
Obviously, I'm joking. But for fuck's sake. Like, it's so annoying. The amount of gaslighting and projecting going on from Netanyahu at this point. He's lost all, like, not all ears, but I feel like anyone sensible has stopped believing anything he's saying.
To get more into the public education, and they thwart it and muddy it, right, and make it about themselves. But when he talk democracy, they're doing that too, right? It's this, like, Iran votes, right? In Iran, they vote, but they're a religious theocracy, and Israel is pretty theocratic as well. If we're going, but you never hear in the Western press, like, Iran is a democracy in the Middle East, right? Or anything.
there's broader repression in Iran.
I know, but of their citizenry, and in Israel, it's just the 3 million people they militarily occupy in the West Bank and the 2 million in the open air prison in Gaza. So
exactly,
I'm only drawing that comparison to just say, even though of course Iran is incredibly repressive, you would never hear that claim made ever in the Western press, because democracy, in the way that Netanyahu continues and the right-wingers in Israel and also Biden present.
It was a great move. It was a great move on Sam's part to hire Emma. Absolutely. I was super glad when I heard that. And I mean, I'm trying to think, how long back was that now? Honestly, at that time, like, I already knew about Emma from her work on TYT, and I didn't know what it was that Sam was going to do to replace Michael Brooks, right? And well, replace is a difficult word to use, but to have on camera, like, with him, right? Because he still needed, like, the crew to be doing what they did, right, behind the scenes. And so, I was wondering, because I think he was struggling with that for a long time, and I think Emma was just this great addition to the whole team. And now I couldn't imagine the majority report without her, basically.
The public is like Western cosmopolitanism and like general educated, wealthy, aligned with the United States and with whiteness and all of that, with an element of voting in it. So there, in my opinion, he's doing this work to reimagine and propagandistic work to make democracy about whiteness and like wealth versus the savages who are uninterested in democratic representation, and they are motivated by this ancient desire, as Biden invoked earlier this week, to
yes, how dare the savages want democracy?
kill Jews. It makes them seem primitive, and Israel and the rest of the West, they're coming for you too, other democracies. It makes them, seem like this is about our broader way of life. And that's all I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
Seriously. Emma's always on point with her analysis.
And the fact is that, like, the reason why there was a Balfour mandate was, in fact, to sort of like inject or have a beachhead for, at that time, the British Empire, and to be an extension of those Western powers. They weren't, maybe you could say democracies, but an empire is not necessarily that democratic,
right?
An institution, but of these Western powers. I mean, that's really what he's saying. And democracy, you're right. I mean, it's a cheapened word that is used to signify, like, we're part of a club, and certainly, people forget this, but maybe step back from some of the provisions that they were using in the that were protested by only half the population, but that's a lot of people to protest in Israel, that had to do with those Israelis who and those who are under Israeli control, who are allowed to have a civic life. Essentially, there was going to be an inhibition of that, the context of that civic life, with the disempowerment of the Supreme Court. So it's tenuous at best.
Yep. Sam really knows. You like Sam's old man Wolverine look? I hear that. I remember Sam back in the day. The clean shaven, no gray hair Sam. A lot has changed. A lot has changed. Well, chap, we got through another one. Well done. I couldn't have done it without you. Well, that's it for me, StreamLord. Till I see you next time. You stay classy. Galactic Stream Nation. Can't forget this. These are your galactic patrons. Gabby. Goth Dogs. Aaron W. Mitty. PB. Robot Cat. Pitchforks Dragon. The Empty Corporatist. Vincent Morales. And Donald James X. All these people have made the right choice in life and helped to produce this very show you're watching right now. You too can help by going to this link. And for just a few dollars a month, you can gain access to space benefits unseen by the rest of the galaxy.